Little Brown Jug title. Tons of highlights on the card. There were some highs and some lows, but Foiled again was in town as he led the post parade for the first elimination of the Little Brown Jug. Let's take a look at all the action.
The great Foiled again with trainer Ron Burke riding in the two-seat jog cart. Susie Tell.
In the first elimination, Lather Up was tons the best and won easily for Team Teague. The only question is, how would he come back in the final?
Roughing pacing. This is the plan, and Lather Up go into that first turn. It's Lather Up with the lead, and as they pass the stand for the first time, Nutcracker Sweet fifth. The Key Advisor is sixth, and trailing is West Delight. Halfway home in 55 and 3. Lather Up in the lead by a length and a quarter. On the outside, this is the plan. Down the stretch, it's Lather Up driving away to win the first elimination. Montrell Tig in the sulky. The 3-year-old colt by I'm Gorgeous had a pocket comb. 149 and 3/5.
I think we left some left. Got some left.
Yeah, happy, confident, and just hope he gives a little. But I will say a shout out to Josh Green. He kind of gave me a couple of ideas on how to change the bits, and that worked as better than anything else. So thank you, Josh.
Montrell, talk about how Lather Up was and how he did out there.
Man, he was awesome. I know everybody was worried about if he's going to make it around a half or not. So I think we just answered some questions, and he felt great.
The second elimination was full of suspense as Stay Hungry was disqualified and placed fourth. Drew post 8 in the final, but later scratched, crushing his pacing Triple Crown dreams. Second elimination favorite Courtly Choice had the rail, but made the break behind the gate early for Miller, rebounded with a big effort to be third to make the final, and eventually went on to be the Little Brown Jug winner.
Pacing between horses, Hitman Hill. Inside Hayden Hanover, 3 wide into the turn, Stay Hungry. Passing the stands first time. We got 3 in, we got 3 out. Decoy second over on the outside and trailing the field, Courtly Choice. On the inside, it's Stay Hungry. In between horses, they come to the wire. Dorset Earl Hanover, Courtly Choice on the outside. Stay Hungry on the inside, Dorset Earl to the wire. It's Stay Hungry. The inquiry sign is posted against the unofficial winner, Stay Hungry. 2 inquiries. Possible interference going to the quarter and possible pylon violation around the final turn.
I saw
Andy Miller go to the paddock
phone. He went inside 3 pylons. I was watching it outside, so I never got a chance to see it. So I don't know, if he went inside or if he hit 1 or 2 or whatever he did. But just have to wait and see what happens.
Unofficial order of finish 4-5-1-2. 4-5-1-2. Unofficial. The inquiry sign is still posted. Number 4, Stay Hungry, has been disqualified and placed 4th for interference with number 2.
Okay, obviously a disappointment after being disqualified there, Tony. It's going to be tough from post 7 or 8, but as strong as he was, are you worried?
No, it's not going to be tough at all because I'm not racing him back. They want to set him back, I understand, but I'm not racing the horse back out of the 8 hole.
Placed the winner, second elimination. Number 5, Dorset Earl Hanover.
Take us through the mile. Dorset Earl Hanover put in a monster effort this afternoon.
He did. He raced super. There was a lot of things going on in that race, though. You know what I mean? Courtly Choice running behind the gate, then the interference going in the second turn. But my horse raced great. First up, he was digging hard. I mean, I thought he raced fantastic.
I knew something happened going in that first turn. You could see where we're all seeing that both, Andy and Brett were off the course. The horses wouldn't both do that without there being a reason. When you saw the replay, you could see that Stay Hungry runs in. He catches, the other Hayden's back leg. So I really thought we were third, though. So to be in place to second was going to be good. but now being placed a winner, it does make a totally different race for us. It gives us a chance,
Courtly Choice grinds it out in the stretch, proves that he's much the best today, gets to the winner's circle, and gives David Miller, the Buckeye, his 5th win on the day.
Here they come for the final of the Little Brown Jug. Pacing next, lather up, fast down the gate to grab the racetrack. Dorsett Hanover gets away second. Courtly Choice racing third into the turn. This is the plan. Pacing fourth. Hayden Hanover fifth. On the left side, Dave's doing sixth, and the trailer is down well. Straight line down the left side, for the first quarter mark. Lather up and home take the field over the opening quarter in 27 seconds. Into the turn, Dorsett Hanover is there second. Racing third is Coleman Choice around the turn fourth. This is the plan. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Racing sixth. Babes digging it down all the trails. No movement. Straight alignment coming to the halfway point. On top of the field, it's lather up. Here comes Courtly Choice and David Miller on the outside. Halfway home in 54-4. 27-4, second panel. On top, lather up. Courtly Choice on the outside second. Dorsett Hanover is there third. This is the plan with cover on the outside fourth. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Babes Dig Me sixth, and way back, done well. Going to the 3/4 mark. Lather up has the lead at the 3/4. 1:21-2. Around the final turn, Courtly Choice trying to come back on the outside. Dorsett Hanover's trying to find some racing room. They've got an 1/8 of a mile to go. Come, lather up, Courtly Choice, Dorsett Hanover. Down the stretch they come. It's lather up, Courtly Choice, Dorsett Hanover with a rush. 3 of them across the track. Who's it going to be? It's Courtly Choice. Miller time.
Look at Miss Miller on Where's Lather? Oh no.
Blake, you put up the supplemental money, and boy, kind of talk about putting your money where your mouth is. What an impressive performance by Courtly Choice.
He's just awesome. Like to have a horse like him once in a lifetime. I'll never have another one like him. I know it. Like I'm a realist. I buy cheap yearlings, and to have one like him is just amazing.
Obviously, he had everything go against him. He made a break at the start, had to come 3 wide. Was there any concern about the second heat?
No, I was actually happier to be off the rail with him. I was a little worried not worried when we drew the rail, but I was, because I knew that, if you tried to rush him too much, he will get a little skippy, and, that's what happened. And then, I just about puked when he made the break, and I was worried, but, it all worked out.
He's just a very game horse that don't give in, and you can't knock a horse, when they're like that, you have a lot of confidence in him, and I have a lot of confidence in him.
This is the 5th victory in the Little Brown Jug. What's that mean to you?
I don't have words for it, because the Great Horseman was the only one that ever did it.
This is the 5th time you've signed this, and the first time, with no pun intended, your hand was shaking like that. But
anybody want a flower?
Yeah. Here you go, David.
Guys, making your way, you supplemented, you had a plan to come to the Little Brown Jug. It worked out. How does it feel getting the victory today?
It was a plan. It was a plan to winning the race, Our horse is really good, and we were very confident to be here today.
After that first elimination, after making the break, he came back, won a heck of a mile, but how are you feeling going into the final?
We felt like we'd win the final.
David,
what he did is he broke when the race started, when the elimination started, and then he still came in third, and he wasn't far behind, some of the other horses. So he could have very easily won that race if he hadn't broken.
Your source for effective supplements through science since 1992, including Regeneric, Iotic 8, Hemex, Equine Liver Flush, Healthy Horse, Testos Boost, Minorec, Equine Anti-Flam, and many more. Through science since 1992, including Regeneric, Iotic 8, Hemex, Equine Liver Flush, Healthy Horse, Testos Boost, Minorec, Equine Anti-Flam, and many more.
I'm Wendy Ross with the USTA. Have you checked out your USTA My Account lately? If not, be sure to pop over to your My Account home screen to see some of the newest features available. Don't have an account? You can sign up in 4 simple steps. All you need is your USTA membership number and a valid email. Listen as one of our member services representatives gives you the inside edge.
Hi, my name is Kim Schneider and I'm a member services representative. Have you ordered your microchip scanner? Don't be left in the dark. Purchase your microchip scanner today. Starting with the foals of 2019, we are using microchips as the means of identification. And by 2021, all racehorses will need to be microchipped too. The chips are implanted in the horse's nuchal ligament and detected by using a scanner. The USTA offers 2 scanners, a Bluetooth universal scanner and a basic scanner, and both are available for purchase from the USTA. Simply log into your USTA My Account and select Online Services from the top menu, and then select the products available in our store. Both scanners are listed. The Bluetooth model for $279, which provides the microchip number, the horse's temperature, and Bluetooth enabled to display the horse's information right on your phone by using the free Chip ID app. The app is available for download in Google Play Store and Apple Store. The basic scanner, priced at $69, relays the same information, but you'll need to input the last 6 digits of the microchip on your free horse ID search. Don't get shut out and schedule your USTA appointment today with your local USTA ID technician to have your horse microchipped. Horses can also be microchipped after purchase at the following 2019-2020 sales for a special rate of $30. Just stop by the USTA table and schedule a time. Be sure to check out your My Account home screen to view the latest perks and benefits, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We hope to see you in the winner's circle.
I got mine organic. I got mine.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the USTA Speaker Series. It's the first of 3 Speaker Series this morning. We'll begin here in about 5 minutes. Or whenever, if you haven't gotten a raffle ticket yet, make sure you see my man Alex up here. He will give you a raffle ticket. We also have programs for this afternoon's racing program. 21 races on tap. So make sure you're getting your live racing program for the Jug Day card.
The reason we haven't started yet is Wendy is still in makeup. When I take a picture of Wendy or something, put it on Facebook, she has to approve the picture.
Editorial power. The wrong one is in makeup, that's for sure. I get professional makeup 1 day a year before they put us on CBS.
You know, seriously, when we started the TV show at the Meadows paid KDKA something like $1,500 to come out and show us how to put makeup on and all this stuff, you know. We did it 1 day. Took the makeup. Poof. No way. No way. Oh, she made it. Now, speaking of the book, before I forget it, who's this supposed to be made out to?
Sherry Holiday.
S-H?
E-R-R-I.
E-R-R-I.
Just another one of your fans, you know.
I don't want to stand in front of the coffee. It might get me beat up.
1997. I came as a fan. I had money. I had hit a big pick six at Hollywood Park that summer. I was walking around with a jacket on. I think it was 96. So I knew I made a mistake immediately, but it was a lot of fun. And Western Dreamer, who won a Triple Crown, by the way. And I ran into Stan Bergstein walking around, and he stopped me. He said, "Dave, who do you like in the jug?" I said, "Well, I'm not really sure yet, Stan, but I know I don't like Western Dreamer." Right down the road. I'll never forget that. Thankfully, Stan forgot about that later on, you know, because he probably asked everybody he ran into. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah, I apologize
for
my
those of you-
tardiness. You can't get into the place. The line was out on 23, was backed up down the road, and you know, Starbucks had to hit Starbucks. That is a must. So sorry, and so we made it, and you can't get in.
If you got a TV interview at 6:50 in the morning and you come here at 6:30, there's no traffic.
Yeah.
They don't give you a trailer?
No, I have a hotel. Actually, my boyfriend has a trailer here, but it's, you know, I need to get a good night's sleep, and they don't shut it down here till, you know, sometimes late in the morning, and, you know, you got to get a good night's sleep and be ready to go. So I hung last night for quite some time and was home in bed at a good hour and ready to roll. So.
Do you ever feel like you've lost total control already?
No comment.
I don't know what you mean.
Mr. Carter knows how to deal with these situations.
You know,
he rolls with
we
the
just
punches.
roll with the punches. Once again, good morning, everybody. If you've yet to get a raffle ticket, see our guys Alex and Skylar over there. They have programs for you as well. We're going to talk some handicapping. We're going to talk some race calling with Roger. And talk some carpool karaoke with Wendy if you haven't seen some of the things we've done. Wendy is an accomplished singer. She's the next Danielle Bradbury.
I don't know about that.
Are we starting off with the national anthem?
Sure, why not? We'll make her sing.
No.
But first, before we begin, you know what, Raj?
And don't forget, I've got the book if you want to buy it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the book as well. But Raj, you got a special announcement to make, so I'll let you go first.
Hey, wait, Raj, one real quick question about the book. Since it's Jug Day, can you do a BOGO on the book? Buy one, get one? Is this for the people that made it here today? Can they get a BOGO?
Let's put it this way. At the auction last night, I spent $2,000 on a Amish crafted wagon and 2 horses and everything. And I said, after I said, I got to sell a lot of books.
I was going to say, so sorry, folks, the BOGO is not an option now.
Excuse me here. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Jeff Ricky. Happy birthday to you. 59 years old. Stand up, Jeff.
All right.
This is his 39th jug, and his mom's with her. Donna, stand up.
Happy birthday.
I can't believe that that's your mother. This is her 28th jug.
All right.
All right, we're going to kick things off this morning. First, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Omega Alpha Equine, for sponsoring our videos throughout Jug Week and making all of our videos possible. You guys know Dave Brower, Wendy Ross, and Roger Huston. They are a pretty integral part of the Little Brown Jug. Roger calls the races here, if you don't know, or he is the voice you hear first thing in the morning with Good Morning Delaware.
Good morning, Delaware.
And Wendy and Dave join Dave Bianconi on the Jug broadcast. And Rod, since you brought up the book, we'll start with you. Let's talk about the book. What brought the book on, and where did the idea come from?
Actually, I came home from a county fair someplace, and I was at dinner at my daughter's house, and I was telling some story that happened at that fair, and I don't know what it was. And Dustin Ross, her husband, said, you know, you ought to write a book. And I said, oh, you got to be kidding. And he says, no, you got so many stories, you ought to write a book and tell about it. So I contacted Vicki Howard, who's been a good friend of mine for almost 45, 50 years, and she says, yeah, we'll do it. So we started in October. We had it finished by March the 15th. It started publishing sometime around April. I'm happy to say it's the #1 seller for harness racing books in the last 10 years. And my granddaughters appreciate it because all the profits go to their college education and to pay for that Amish wagon.
It was a really nice wagon, though.
Oh, it was beautiful, I'm telling you. And the underbidder was Bill Rhodes, and Bill's taking it back to the meadows for me in his horse trailer.
What is the chance of it actually arriving at your property?
I don't know. Bill just built at where he trains, and he built a beautiful patio area under a roof and everything. It may be donated by Roger Houston to him. I wouldn't object if he wants it.
Now, Wendy, let's jump to you. We'll jump into the work you've done for the Harness Racing Fan Zone and the USTA shortly. But first, for those who may be seeing you for the first time, tell them a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Wendy Ross. This is actually my 11th year working for the Little Brown Jug. I actually started here the first 5 years. I was with a stage manager in the paddock, and what the stage manager does is now what my good friend Heather Wilder does is when we do the interviews on the air, the stage manager goes and gets the interviews that Dave, at the time my time was Sam, would give, and then they have the list and they put the people on the stage so that way it's consistent flow, and it works well. So I did that for 5 years, and then this is actually my 6th year on the broadcast, my 3rd year doing this segment here. So yeah, I've just been hanging out, but I'm actually, Michael and I share the position at the USTA. We're the publicity and social media coordinators at the USTA. We've been doing that for over a year now. It's been really fun. Michael runs the US trotting platforms. I manage the Harness Racing Fan Zone. We also have other members of our team. Jason Turner's here, our boss Dan Leary, and we have some really good interns with us as well. So it's a team effort, but the Harness Racing Fan Zone, we try to just put out cool content that's mainstream ideas that tie into harness racing, and do fun things for the fans and keep the sport up to beat, and new things coming in. So that's kind of what we focus on. Yesterday we actually filmed something with Tim Tetrick, and him and I did. We rode around here and talked and went to the fair and did some fun stuff. So that'll be coming up soon. So just fun, cool things like that is what we try to do. And I'm a 3rd generation horseman. I was born into the business. It's harness racing is what I love. It's what I do. So I'm just lucky and blessed to be here to be able to do it today.
And to be politically correct, because you have to do these things, Wendy is a cousin to my daughter's husband, Dustin. So
yeah,
she's
we're family.
She's a niece through marriage.
Niece through marriage.
all disclaimers aside, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, they do that on Fox News all the time.
All right, Dave, you're up, and let's kind of talk about how you got into the game, what you do at Meadowlands Racing and Entertainment, and how you got involved here.
Thank you, Michael, and just a good morning to everybody, and thanks for coming out. And we know it's early, and it's early for us too, but we love to see the smiling faces, and it's a lot of the same faces that we see each and every year. My name is Dave Brower, and I come to you from northern New Jersey. I'm the odds maker, broadcaster, and handicapper at Meadowlands Racing and Entertainment. I'm also proud to be the co-host on the one race that we have on national TV each year. That's the $1 million Hambletonian on CBS Sports Network. We do a 90-minute live broadcast each show. Gary Seibel is the host, and we've got Greg Blanchard as our interviewer. Got into the business growing up 5 minutes from the Meadowlands, going to the track with my dad when my mother would allow me. So you know we're talking about 9, 10 years old. Loved to handicap, founded a challenge, got into a good group of friends up there in the clubhouse where we'd hang out each and every Friday and Saturday night. Went to St. John's University, got a degree in journalism, and I think my first actual real paid job in the business was, does everybody remember the Sports Eye? That was the DRF of harness racing back then. Now it's called DRF Harness. So I was the chart caller at the Meadowlands. I also timed the races. I had that as a side job. Remember that dead heat Hambletonian in 1989 between Park Avenue Joe and Probe? Well, I operated the clock. And I remember looking over when they hit the wire, and we heard Tom Durkin's call, too close to call. And I looked over at Charlie, who does the photo finish, and I said, I think we've got a problem here. And the judges were yelling at us. We were trying to, try to separate the horses, and we just couldn't do it. So that was one of the highlights of my career. Went on to work in the publicity office, got a chance to do television, and then the odds making, the morning line, and the handicapping in the program. So lots to do, a lot of different jobs, and most of them have been fun. And I groomed and trained, assistant trained for a little while, for a couple of years there. So hopefully I know one end of the horse from the other.
Most of them have been fun.
Yeah. Gee. Most. But they're all hard work, as you know. Everybody that's involved with the Little Brown Jug here, we do a lot of work to make that broadcast as entertaining as possible. I mean, we're here to have a little bit of fun. Pick some winners too, maybe make some dinner money, but our job is to entertain you, and thankfully, we hope we get the job done, right, Roger?
Well, I'll tell you, if you bet my horses, you're not going to get much dinner money.
Is that today or for the whole week?
For the whole week. I'm real happy. I've never had this many winners in all the years I've been at Delaware, for one reason or another. I'm averaging 8 winners a day this year, and that tells you how many favorites are winning.
That's true. Yesterday, at least, we had a couple of nice payoffs. But we knew that was going to happen with all those trot races. But
what about that 5-2 shot the other day that paid $20-some?
Art McElmurray. He's one of those guys.
Now, they would call that a bad morning line. I disagree totally. If the morning line picks the winner, that's a good morning line.
Yeah, all right.
But that's not the definition of a morning line.
And speaking of yesterday, how about the performance you saw from Warrawee U Butte? Was that not one of the most special jugettes that maybe we've ever seen? She was just that good. And I have to admit, I did talk to some of the members of the Burke Brigade, and they were hemming and hawing, maybe regretting their decision to put her in against the fillies. But there's more time later on if they feel that she's good enough to try and tackle the colts. But that was a special moment to be here for, and I hope you all were.
I really like Ron Burke's point why he didn't put her in against the boys, if you didn't hear, was the fact that he said if they went 2 divisions and say, okay, you put her in against the boys, well, there's no guaranteed draw. Like, she drew the rail against the fillies, which was great, but going in, if she would have drew the 7 or 8, I mean, that just makes it that much tougher, and there is a lot of racing left in the year.
Yes, had she entered, there would have been a total of 16 in the Little Brown Jug, so, obviously your chances of drawing a bad post rise. I think they made the right decision, and it turned into a great moment. And I got to admit, they were very, very happy and in a celebratory mood. Let's put it that way.
They were very happy, but I think, and I really mean this, they regret not putting her in the jug. They really do. It may come down the road, but I talked to one of the principal owners, and he says we should have put her in the jug.
All right. Well, who could forget that performance yesterday? We saw a couple of good performances. Treacherous Rain raced really well as well yesterday, Dave. And, you know, going into the final, I think the bettors weren't really sure what to make. I mean, obviously 1-5 and 5-2 was about what you were going to get.
Well, you knew Warrior Butte was going to be the favorite. There was no question about that. It was just a matter of what the number was going to be, whether it was 1-5, 2-5, or 1-9. But give Treacherous Rain credit because she's never really gone a bad race, and that's credit to Tony Alagna. I mean, he's having a heck of a summer, the second half of the summer, with the stakes races all across North America. So.
Now, Wendy, you're a horsewoman. Let's talk about Dexter's move yesterday. I talked to Ron Burke after the race, and Yannick said the same thing, that Dexter did what he was supposed to do in that case and shoved Warwi back into a hole. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think when you have the two fillies, like, they both have the same style. They like to be on the front. They like to control the fractions. And, Dexter used his position from the inside to do exactly what he did. And, he knew Yannick was going to try to do the same thing, but I think Dexter you could see him turn the whip there, and he said no. And he kind of made his filly go on there a little, because the whole purpose is when you have fillies or a horse that likes to do it that way, you want to get to the front and control the fractions, just for the simple fact that gives you the sprint on the end of it, and then you really are in control throughout the whole race. So Yannick knew, I think he knew his filly was the best, but he knew he was going to, be at the mercy of Dexter at that point. And that's when I gave Yannick so much props on air, because, when you're in that position, that's just experience and professionalism from him, because I think when you're in that experience, some drivers would have said no, that was their game plan, and they didn't, they can't make that change. But Yannick, obviously, that's why he's one of the best in the world, said, okay, I'm not going to have it my way. I'm going to have to do it another way, and that's why it worked out.
One thing I'll say about that, if you remember the interview a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year or the year before, Ron Burke said, I think I asked him something about 2 heats. He says, that's up to the trainer. It does not hurt the horse to go 2 heats. He says, it's how you train your horses, and my horses are trained to go 2 heats. And so I get sick and tired. Well, I better not say that. I get very upset when these trainers say, well, I don't want to race at Delaware because I have to go 2 heats with my horse. Burke will win them all.
All right. Let's talk some handicapping. Roger, we're going to start with you. When you approach the Little Brown Jug, obviously you're here all week, you see all the races. What things do you pick up on that might help you on Jug Day to handicap the races?
Nothing. I will say this track this year is probably as fast as it's ever been. I can't remember going in 51 on a Sunday or something like that. I think we've set 5 or 6 Breeders' Crown records. We've set a world record. We set 3 national seasons records. I don't know if it'll come up, but when you ask me who's going to win the race, I'm going to say Southwind Aussie. If you remember when Big Bad John won, I announced 9 of his wins. He was 9 for 9. Southwind Aussie and I are 5 for 5. So I'm picking Southwind Aussie, and it's up to Brian Sears to do the rest in Southwind Aussie.
Well, I don't think there's any better man for the job, that's for sure.
What?
Brian Sears, I'm sure he'll handle it. I said I don't know if there's too many better than him for the job.
You talk about drivers, and I feel they go in years or something like that. You have Dave Miller dominate for a number of years. You have Tim Tetrick dominate for a number of years. And usually the figure's about 5 or 6 years. Brian Sears has kind of dominated for a little bit more than that. And to me, right at this time in history, Brian Sears is the best driver in all of harness racing. And that's not taking anything away, because in a year or 2 years, it won't be Brian Sears. It'll be somebody else coming up the ladder.
Well, I think it's all about, I think any driver will tell you, it's all about the horses you have that you're sitting behind. And Ryan just worked his way up and has the opportunity to have some of the best horses in the country. He drives the trotters for the Melander barn, and that's a big score there. And, but he's just a guy that he really goes to Florida in the winter, and he's only here basically 5 months of the year. He races at Yonkers, but he's just earned that respect to where I think people just use him because he gets those opportunities, because they know that he's going to do exactly what he does, and he gets, you know, the most out of a horse, and he's just patient, especially with these young horses. He brings them along really well when he sits behind them.
Wendy, Brian is a great horseman, and he's an even better driver. He knows where to position his horses to give them the maximum chance to win. And when he's driving a horse like Green Shoe, who's just, you know, a ton of power, he just needs to make sure that he keeps him out of trouble and point him in the right direction. You know, and he drives Chimpanzee, who's so two-fingered. He drove Hypnotic AM to a big win in the New York Sire Stakes. She remains undefeated, you know, for the same connections. And he said she's just a sweetheart. She said, you know, I can do whatever I want with her, which is so rare to have that kind of talent and maturity in a 2-year-old. He's a great horseman.
I actually think that Chimpanzee is a better racehorse than Green Shoe. But I'll give all the credit to the world to Brian Sears for the job that he's done with Green Shoe, because he is probably one of the hardest horses to drive. He's a nutcase.
Well, yeah, it's taken a lot. It's taken over 2 years of training to get him to try and mature. And there was a big turn of the corner this year. The Green Shoe we saw last year as a 2-year-old, you know, was just a big baby and maybe even a spoiled baby. The Green Shoe we saw at the start of his sophomore campaign was a grown-up boy. And, you know, the power that he possesses, you know, we may see things, you know, over the course of the rest of the summer into the Breeders' Crown that we haven't seen before. So looking forward to that. And Marcus Melander, for such a young guy, he manages his stable perfectly, and he's been getting some maximum effort out of these top-bred trotters for Courant Incorporated under Strom, and he's managed to keep them separated along the way, which was by design. Of course, Chimpanzee's a New York bred. But they're all going to hook up soon, and it's going to come during the Grand Circuit meet at Lexington.
And no matter what, Brian Sears will drive Green Shoe.
Yes,
and
he
the
will.
reason is, and the way they explained it to me, a Billings amateur driver could drive Chimpanzee. He is that easy to drive and do anything with, but Green Shoe must have Brian Sears.
When we were out in Jersey, Chimpanzee literally stood there for what, 20 minutes, Wendy, and just stood there.
Well, yes, they walked him.
Just looked around.
On there, a lot of the Marcus does though, just the horse had gotten some work done, so he was just walking. So they just actually hooked the horse up. They put kind of like a pressure card on them, and they just go out and just walk for what was it, a half an hour? But it took him 25 minutes to get to the track to walk.
I had to grab him and bring him back to the barn because he just would not go I believe Michaela was in the bike. He would not go. But speaking of Brian Sears, and Dave, I'll point this question at you because you had a ringside seat to this. You know, we noticed Green Shoe tossing his head in not only the heat of the Hambletonian, but the final. And, you know, Brian was just able to keep him together, to mind his manners. What does it mean to have a driver like that? And when you're handicapping, you know, do you take those types of things into consideration?
It means everything in the world. Now, nobody knows the horse better than Brian Sears, and he knows he's capable of those antics. He had not really showed any of that in any race or prep up to the Hambletonian. He just had a bad day that day for the most part. And once it started, it was difficult to keep him under control. We all know the atmosphere of Hambletonian Day. You know, it's during the day. There's a lot of people. There's noise. There's cameras and everything else. The fact that Brian, you know, somehow nursed him through the start and then let him settle and, you know, got back into the race, so to speak, was, and give credit to the winner too. Give credit to Bob McClure, who's going to be with us today. He won the race with Forbidden Trade. Some great connections there, and it just gave us, you know, a good storyline of an upset. You know, a 1-5 shot got beat. When that happens, that's a story.
All right, Dave, let's talk some trip handicapping. Obviously, post position is a little bit of everything here at Delaware, and, you know, you have to handicap and use that a little bit, but talk about trip handicapping a little bit and how you use it to handicap the Little Brown Jug.
Well, first of all, handicapping a half-mile track and handicapping a mile track are two different animals. I think we all know that. You know, and your own handicapping style is how you grew up. If you grew up here in Ohio, you know, you're dealing with some small tracks and some different styles of racing. I grew up watching the Meadowlands, which is completely different. You know, you need to save a little horse for this longer stretch down there. But You know, nowadays, there's so many replays available to everybody, so the trip handicapping isn't quite the tool or boon that it used to be, back in the 90s and early 2000s when people didn't watch replays, they didn't see qualifiers. Some of us were there in person, so you use your own eyes. That's a lot better of a handicapping tool than just looking at the numbers, on the program. You get an idea of whether a horse was good or whether he was all out, and you downgrade them a little bit. And when they come back, if they show a winning qualifier where they were all out, life and death to win in 55, and they're 3 to 5 on the tote board, well, you're going to bet against them. Most of the time, you're going to be right. You watch one that's finishing up like this, famous John Campbell, he would qualify every horse like this, up in the grips. They may finish 5th, they may finish 6th, then they'd be in a non-winners of 2 next week, then you bet on them. And that's why he was so great at what he did, because he would keep the horse brave and they learn from that. And then when it's time to turn them loose, you get the maximum effort.
Dave helped me write a few questions last night, and I appreciate that, Dave. And this question's going to be directed at all three of you. We'll start with Wendy. Wendy, what are the what challenges come with broadcasting all week? And obviously, Dave, you're on beginning on Sunday, and so there's different challenges on Sunday and Monday than, say, there are on Thursday. But tell us a little bit about what kind of challenges that presents.
Well, we actually talked about this yesterday on air, that live television is really hard. I've been struggling with this winner circle mic for the last 2 days because it's it's a wireless mic and it looks like it's on, but in the sun I can't see if it's green or red or orange. I don't know what's going on with this, so I actually have to press it twice. But that is just an example of how live television can be a little tough. They kick it to you and you're just like crickets, but then you get your mic working. You just got to keep going. And I think the longest thing is, just being sharp and staying on top of things and just, not getting tired, which is, we've been doing this long enough now. We kind of know the drill. I like to drink a lot of water and put the Crystal Light caffeine packets in my water's my key. So I think you just got to find out what works for you. But hey, we have fun though. And that's what it's about.
We make it fun.
We do, and Dave's strong suit, and I've said this now, this is your 3rd year?
This is my 3rd.
3rd year. Brower's strong suit is he plays to everyone's strengths, and he knows when to pit, who to throw the ball to at what time, and that's what makes, I think, has been such a great asset to the broadcast since we lost Sam. Is Brower's just come in and stepped in and done great things, because being a host for 6-7 hours a day is really tough, and I feel that Dave does an exceptional job. But yeah, I think live TV is just staying sharp and, preparation. I think that's a lot of it too, is whenever if I talk to girls or people coming up and just wanting to do this, I said, be prepared. You can never be prepared enough, and that's what shows and what makes you shine, I believe.
That's very kind, thank you. Very kind. It is an incredible challenge. I think you all know that. We're following a very, very loose script, especially yesterday and today. Now, what everybody loves about the broadcast, I think, are those between race interviews. Like you said, people don't get a chance to talk to these horsemen sometimes, and our gal Heather Wilder is such a wonder at putting it together. I give her some suggestions, but she has free reign to throw anybody up there on the set, and she'll text me and she'll say, all right, she'll give me a couple of races notice, and I'll formulate some things in my head. But a perfect example of a curveball. Yesterday she threw me one of the young Ohio horsemen, and I had about 1 minute notice, maybe, Miles Wallem. I don't know Miles, but I know the Wallem name, here in Ohio. So we asked him about that. We asked him about his own stable. He had 3 in the same race. Is that good? Is that bad? And he gave great questions, and it was nice. I wasn't there for Justin Irvine's interview. I had to take a break at that moment, but I did see him afterwards, and he enjoyed himself. Of course, he's the son of Donnie Irvine Jr., who we all know is one of the mainstay drivers here for decades, so it was good to see them after the races. And maybe the biggest curveball of all was Joe McLeod of the Sugar Valley Farms came in with a young man who's sitting in this room, or standing in this room right now. He's over here on my right. Was it Justin or Dustin?
Justin.
Justin.
It was Justin from Nova Scotia. So, we plop him in his seat, we throw the headset on him. He came to the Little Brown Jug this year because he had a choice of vacations, and he opted to come here to Delaware, Ohio, rather than go to Disneyland. So now it's a little intimidating for a young man. You know, you're looking at cameras like Rich is holding the one right now, and you know you've got a headset on, and you're in a chair, and you're with big people, and he did great. You know, we kept firing some questions at him. You know, who's your favorite driver? Or, you know, have you been to the Gold Cup and Saucer? And what's your favorite part of the week? Well, I want to see Wiggle It, Jiggle It. Who's your favorite driver? Montrell T. Well, we fixed all that up. He got to see Montrell and Wiggle It, Jiggle It later on that evening. But hey, listen. Like Wendy said, it's live TV. You never know what's coming, so we do our best to be ready. And you guys know me. I do an awful lot of note-taking and research, and I've got it all spread out in front of me, despite all those wires and everything else that we have. So it's a lot of fun. It's a tremendous challenge. It's a battle of stamina. It's going to be a long day today like it was yesterday, but thank God the weather's been nice. That makes a big difference for us.
I got two things I want to add real quick. Justin shows up the other day. He had a T-shirt on, and I don't know if you saw the T-shirt. It's something, and I'll never get it exact wording. This is my first airplane flight, and I'm on the way to the little brown jug. And I thought it was the greatest T-shirt in the world, and I don't know where he got it, but it was great. And I want another. I got to take one thing that they're talking about, the problems with the TV show. Wendy got madder than hell at me yesterday.
Oh my! Are we still
now
talking
wait,
about this?
let me talk. She got madder than hell at me, came up to the booth, reamed me out for not introducing her to do an interview in the Horror Circle. No, wait, I'm not done yet. I'll say when. Now,
when?
What they don't understand is that I'm up there announcing on the PA system. I've got an inquiry going on with the judges. I got the judges on one here. I got the microphone here. I got in this ear. I hear what they're saying downstairs. And I literally forgot to introduce her. It was my fault. I agree with that. But you talk about having a complicated job. Come on up here with me someday.
It's not as easy as it
Now you
looks.
can say what you want to say.
Okay, in my defense, okay, I've came up, so I've been doing television now for 12 years total, and going on more now, but I've come up working under Roger, okay, and Sam McKee, which Sam was the coolest dude. He was cool as a cucumber, but if something went wrong on the show, holy smokes, if like the timing was off or something like that. And Roger, I've been here for 11 years with him. I was like his assistant for a couple of those years, so I know how he likes to be precise, and we were just lingering out there in the winner's circle, and I was like, is someone going to kick it to us? It was Yannick and, I don't know, it was the division of the Jugette. It was the second division of the Jugette. And I was like, all right. And, we got it done, but that's all. And I don't feel I was aggressive as he is leading on. But this is the third time I've heard about it, so I must have been, and I'm sorry.
Well, I apologized to her after it was over, too. But I mean, it's sometimes, for me at least, it is rough up there because I'm trying to do 15 things at once, keeping all track of all these records and everything like that, and you try to be right and everything, and sometimes I forget stuff. But I got one other thing I want to say, and I want to say it public. Hey, Sarah, stand up. I've known this young girl. She's no longer a young girl, but she is undoubtedly Roger Houston's biggest fan. 10 years old, I flew to Garden State Park to have dinner with her and her mom and dad. I gave her a ring at 10. And I just want to recognize her. Because, Sarah, I love you. I thank you for everything you've done for me. It makes me feel good. And I was at Clinton County Fair, going back there. And I was standing in the turn, and here comes Sarah. And she's had some problems. She takes off at a dead run when she sees me. Look at her. She falls flat on her face, skins up her arms and legs and everything. And I just want to publicly say Sarah Wirtz, I love you.
Aww.
Roger, if you'll give me just a second, I just want to introduce a couple of people that are in the crowd with us today because they deserve a couple of shout-outs. Have you noticed the starting gate this week at the Delaware County Fair? Well, the guy that drives that, his name is Mike Webkenberg, and he's the greatest guy in the world, especially when it comes to social media and taking care of the fans of our game. Every day here during Little Brown Jug Week, he's got people coming into that gate, riding in it for the first time, which is always a big thrill. And like he told me, nobody ever walks out of that afterwards and says, it was okay. They're all thrilled. Big round of applause for Mike Webkenberg right here. Not just for what he does for the industry, but for also all great starts so far this week, and hopefully we'll have another good day. No problems yet. No problems yet.
It's funny.
Mike Webkenberg.
It's funny you say that, Dave, because we brought our intern Skylar into the starting car yesterday, and we got back to the table afterwards, and she said it's the coolest thing she's done in 3 weeks. She's been at the USTA. So, Mike, thanks so much for everything you do.
And to show you how old I am,
uh-oh.
When I was announcing races, Mike made his very first drive with a horse, not a starting gate. Oh.
But the thing is, that's the thing. Most people don't realize I drove that horse.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's why I'm a better starter, because I've been on the other side of the gate.
Right.
I know what those horses are doing, and I know what those drivers are doing.
Most of the starters in this sport really never ever sat behind a horse, and I think you'll agree with me. Now, Johnny Haig was an exception because he drove, but other starters that I think of, they never sat behind a horse, and that's what makes Mike a super. And not only that, he makes starting gates, he makes jog carts. I don't know if you're in race bikes, wheels, you name it.
He's a fixer.
Saddle pads.
He is a fixer. Thanks again, Mike. You know, and always appreciate everything that you do. I'd also like to point out that we have some previous winning owners of the Little Brown Jug with us in
I
attendance
see them
here.
there. They're my favorites.
The Wingfield brothers are here. Please, take a little stand up here, Limelight Beach.
And it's the only
They're
horse.
They're missing two of their group, but there's three of them here. The brothers are here.
In all the years, Charlie and I go back to even to his, what was it, your uncle that drove horses at Urbana. I remember that, and that's going way back before in the 60s. And Charlie was sitting in the log cabin the day of the draw for Limelight Beach, and I walked over to Charlie, and I says, Charlie, by the way, when you win they hadn't even drawn post positions. I says, when you win the jug, you're the first person I'm coming to in the winner's circle. So I predicted that one even before the jug. And by the way, that's in the book.
All right.
I had to find some way to get the book into it.
Congratulations to you guys.
Wait.
We know you'd never miss a Little Brown Jug.
Lee Alphen here, head of the Christian Harness Horsemen's Association. And I understand you had a great breakfast yesterday morning. So she deserves a hand too.
Well, we'll keep this going. We'll keep going. Who else we got in the crowd?
Tony Alagna just snuck into the tent, picked
And
up a
you
coffee.
know where
He did sneak in.
Guess where he went? To the donuts. First
That's
place.
all right.
Come right in, goes right to the donuts.
Tony Alagna is going to have a very busy day. Then again, every day is busy for him managing a giant
There's
stable
Ratcliffe's
out of his
back
base in
there.
New Jersey. Yeah. Tony, stand up for a second. Wave to everybody. No one more media savvy and friendly to us so that we can do our job than Mr. Tony.
And he'll be coming up at the 9 a.m. spot, too. So you'll be able to ask Tony all kinds of questions and get the scoop. Tony's great.
No more donuts, though.
Tony will be able to tell you about Escape to the Beach, who unfortunately had to drag my butt around in Florida. So we'll talk about that in the next session.
Oh, that was the one?
Yeah, it was Escape to the Beach.
Okay.
That's why he hasn't won a race since. I'm just kidding, Tony. Just kidding. All right, let's draw a couple of raffle tickets. If I call your numbers, stop over and see Alex and Skylar over there. The first number, we're going to let you draw out of a grab bag. The second one, we're going to give away a 1-year subscription to Hoofbeats. 1-year subscription to Hoofbeats. So you'll see some of the writings from Kim French and her gang. So the grab bag is 105224. 105224.
You win every year.
Max,
always win.
And then the second one is 105243. 105243. Anybody? Nobody wants hoofbeats. 243. There he is. Okay, so we'll go over and see. Raj, let's throw our next question to you. You've called more races than I can count at many different racetracks worldwide. Tell us a little bit about how many race calls you're at, how many racetracks you've called at, and the Vincent Delaney Memorial.
I'm over, I had the exact number a few days ago, but I haven't added them up since Delaware because it changes every once in a while. But I'm up over 180,000, and I'm doing about 2,500 a year. I've done as many as 4,500 in a year, but that was in my younger days. So I have backed off to some degree. 145 different racetracks in 17 states and 8 countries. I got 2 more trips yet this year going to Shenandoah Downs the 11th, 12th, and 13th to call races in Woodstock, Virginia. And then on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of October, we make our annual trip to Ontario. We'll be at London on Friday, Kawartha on Saturday, and wrap it up with Leamington on Sunday. I think this will be my 5th or 6th year going on this tour up in Canada. And I got a note one year from Steve Wolf of Harness Link, and he says, "Man, have I got a gig for you." At this point in my life, I mean 6 years ago, I thought a lot of the traveling was over. I didn't expect to be invited places, but they invited me to go to the Vincent Delaney Memorial, which is held second week of August. They race a Saturday and Sunday only. And so this was my 6th year going to Dublin, Ireland, and announcing at Port Marnock. We've already made plans for next year to make it 7 in a row. If you ever have the chance to go to Ireland, be sure you go the second weekend of August. Now, it might be on top of the Hambletonian, and nothing against the Hambletonian, but you'll have more fun in Port Marnock than you will going to New Jersey. The people over there are unbelievable. They race now get this, the 2-year-old eliminations are on Saturday afternoon. The 2-year-old final is Sunday afternoon. So they don't worry about 2 heats or racing back-to-back days. And they set the track record over there. It's a half-mile track. They score 4 or 5 wide. You may have 5 on the front tier, 5 in the second tier, and 2 trailers, 3 back. They have all kind of racing. They go the wrong way of the track. They go the right way of the track. They race trotters. They race pacers. Dexter Dunn, that's where I first met him. He came up, and he was there. I've taken Aaron Merriman over there. Mike Wilder's going with me. Dan Noble is going with me. This year it was Stratton, and we have a great time. It's a big event for them. It's like the Kentucky Derby. The women, and if you ever go to my Facebook account, you'll understand what I'm saying. The women dress to the hilt on Sunday over there, the hats, the dresses. But the most important, I gotta tell you, look up Alexis Laidler. Alexis Laidler. 10 straight years she's been the leading trainer in Wales, Scotland, Great Britain, and what's the other country over there? Ireland, excuse me. Her husband drives, Rocker Laidler. She set the world's record under saddle. By the way, they race pacers under saddle over in Ireland and Scotland. She decided to drive last week, and she won a big race at Corby Wood, beat the guys in 2 straight heats. She's probably only driven 10 races in her entire life.
and she dresses to the hilt, to the hilt. She harnesses the horses, she bathes the horses, she walks them to the winner's circle. She's got knee-high boots, a mini skirt, white outfit on, and she's the caretaker as well. Somebody that's unbelievable, and her picture is in the book twice. And if you see her, Max, she's beautiful, isn't she? Unbelievably beautiful. First time I met her was in Wales, and she says, "Oh, I hope you announce a race that I win today." Well, she won 3 races that day. And then we ended up there, and we're standing there, and we're kind of holding hands. And all of a sudden, at first when I saw her, I thought she was a Playboy bunny. I'm serious. Thought she was a Playboy bunny. And then when we were holding hands, I realized this is no Playboy bunny. Her hands are rougher than any man's hands in the world.
Hey, Raj.
Yeah.
She's from Wales and she knows Alexis, so you might want to say hello.
Is that Gwen? Gwen?
Come
here.
We have a visitor from Wales, ladies and gentlemen.
I met Gwen. I met Gwen in Wales in 2009. We've been good friends. The only thing that she's ever done that I really don't understand, why she went to that football game the other night.
Had to go and see the Bengals, yeah. Or the Bungles.
Yeah, she says, "I'm going to see the Bengals." And I says, "You mean the Bungles?" That's Myron Cope's big line.
He's a Steeler fan.
All right. Well, before we wrap this thing up, we got just a couple of minutes left. Let's talk about who we like in the Little Brown Jug. And you know what? We're going to put Wendy on the spot just because I have to deal with her on Monday and she'll yell at me later. But I'm just kidding, Wendy. Who do you like?
Well, just look at the 2 divisions overall. I think in the first heat, I'm going to go with the 4 Southwind Aussie here. Brian Sears has just been doing great things. Bill MacKenzie is another one of the trainers at the 9 o'clock spot coming up. So if you want to hear more about Southwind Aussie, what a nice colt he's really turned out to be. He can do it both ways, and I think that's what makes him a threat in here today. I think with the 4 hole here in the elimination, I think Brian will look to be aggressive early and put him in play. But I don't look for, one thing about Brian, he's not going to overuse the colt to get into the final, but I think he certainly is the best in here. Questionable about the 5 Air Force Hanover for the new connections coming in off that win at Poconos in that numbers of 4 and 7 company just to get up 26-3 was the best that the horses finished in quite some time. So don't want to leave this one out with the new connections. The Team Allard is always aggressive. They love to win these type of races, so you sure they're going to be ready to go today. The 3 Shake That House, teacher driving for Chris Oakes in here, was scratched out of the New York Sire Stake final, but did have the qualifier impressively at Pocono. So for me, I'm going to go with the 4 Southwind Aussie under with the 3, the 2, and the 5 underneath. Looking at the 2nd division, the 16th race, I like the rail horse in there, semi-tough. Casie takes this one for Ron Burke, of course, and with the rail in here, I think is going to be a threat. Dave interviewed Matt yesterday. They talked about this colt. He said he's confident in him, and I think with the inside position, he's only got 1 win coming into this event, but he's 9-2 morning line, and I think, a lot of people are giving the play to American Mercury, who is probably the best colt in the race, but post 7, and he can be aggressive, really leaves the gate well, so have to see how that shakes out. He's a 7-time winner in 10 starts. But for me, I'm going to go 1-7-3-4 in that 2nd division. So for me, but I think overall, going to give the nod to Southwind Aussie to win the whole thing.
All right, we're going to let Roger bring up the rear here because I'm sure he'll give us a B there at the end. So, Dave, who do you like to win the jug?
I've actually got a couple of long shots in the elimination here
Let's
today.
hear it.
Just taking a real swing. And after we leave, we'll get a little bit more information from the trainer of number 6 in the first elimination. That's US Captain, because Tony Alagna has really found the key to this horse. After a little bit of a slow start to the season, he added Lasix, and he's got this horse going in the right direction right now. Jason Bartlett, who'd never been to the Delaware County Fairgrounds until a couple of days ago, he drove in the Jugette yesterday. He's going to look at this race and handicap it the same way that I do. He's going to look at it, and he's going to leave 1,000 miles an hour with U.S. Captain this afternoon. And if he crosses over quick, I think that gives him the jump on Southwind Aussie. You know the price is going to be a lot better, and I think this is the right horse at the right time at the right price in the first elimination. In the second, which looks a little bit more wide open, I've got a little soft spot in my heart for number 7, American Mercury. Now, I hate outside post here just as much as everybody else, but this is a horse that also has had a complete turnaround 3-year-old sophomore season for Chris Oakes, and the key was once they gelded him, he suddenly became a real racehorse. Tyler Buter has been to the Jug before, but he's never driven until yesterday. He was the standout leading driver on the New York Sire Stakes circuit throughout the entire season. He's committed to strictly catch driving, and this horse was absolutely sensational to win that Messenger Stakes a month ago, beating one of the better colts in the division, Better's Wish, preventing him from being able to supplement into the Little Brown Jug. So this is a horse that's really good right now. He had a nice maintenance qualifier at his home base of Pocono Downs, and if he can blast out of there, look the race over. You know, there aren't that many that can leave as hard as you might think, and I think Tyler Buter is going to take a shot. It's his first Little Brown Jug. Why not go for it?
Raj? I think I let the cat out of the bag earlier. One of the most proudest things there was is the fact that I called Big Bad John 9 straight races, and he won 9 straight races with me announcing. Southwind Aussie and yours truly, a perfect 5 for 5. So I'm not a handicapper like they are. I'm not a trip handicapper. I handicap with my heart, which is, or my head, or whatever you want to call it. But I like Southwind Aussie. If there is an upset in that race, it'll be Air Force Hanover, I think. Second division, I as well go with the outside horse, American Mercury. I can't give you reasons like these guys do, but I like Southwind Aussie, I like American Mercury, I like Air Force Hanover. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but in my heart, I really want Southwind Aussie to win because I want to be 6 for 6 with him. And I'm sorry, that's the way I look at it. And
well, hopefully you'd be 7 for 7 because hopefully he'd win his.
Oh, that would right. Well,
yeah,
that would. He could be 7 for 7. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, but it's going to be a good horse race. There's no question. Every jug's a good horse race, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops. And like I say, I'm not a handicapper.
And we get to see Wiggle It Jiggle It today.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
excited about
oh.
that. 2015, one of the greatest
right.
jugs ever. There's Justin. We know that's his favorite moment. He'll wait for that too. Go ahead, Michael.
I guess I don't know whether I'll let the cat out of the bag or what, but Montrell and I have developed good friendship over the years with Wiggle It Jiggle It. And I asked him last night, I says, I was concerned when he got beat in his last qualifier. And he says, no, he says, in every qualifier I was not concerned about him. I let him do what he wanted to do that particular day. And I says, well, you had the lead, and they went right by him. And he says, hey, that day he just didn't fire. There's nothing wrong with him, nothing like that. But he said he just was maybe too much on the front end and should have come from off the pace. And again, my heart's going to be with Wiggle It Jiggle It. And I'll be very honest, they called me 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, could you call the Tigs and see if they'd bring Wiggle It Jiggle It to Delaware? And I called Montrell, and at that point in time, I think he had only had 1 qualifier. And he says, well, Dad's thinking about the Quinlan, which was Monday. And I said to Montrell, even after 1 qualifier, I says, I think you should come to Delaware, Ohio for his first start. I says, in that Quinlan, his first start, they're going to go in 49, and I don't think you need that for a horse that hasn't raced for 3 years, regardless of the number of qualifiers. And I called him back the next week, and he says, well, Dad still hasn't made up his mind or anything like that. All of a sudden, the day of the having to enter for the Quinlan, George says, we're going to Delaware. And it had nothing to do with Wiggle It or anything like that. But George Tigg loves Delaware. He won't be here. He's sick. He's a little under the weather. But Montrell's here.
and I'm hoping that it's going to be a tough race. I mean, there's horses in there that have been going in 151 right here at in Ohio and such, so it'll be a tough race. But I'm hoping that we'll see a good performance from Wiggle It Jiggle It. And I know this, the fans are going to be behind Wiggle It Jiggle It in that race, except for the owners and the connections of the other horses, because this is only the second time, in my knowledge, that a Little Brown Jug winner has returned to race at Delaware, Ohio. And I think it's big. And believe me when I tell you, George and Montrell brought Wiggle It Jiggle It to Delaware for the fans.
And they deserve a round of applause for that sportsmanship.
And believe me, and I also want to say this, and this is not to be against anybody else in the business, I don't mean it, but I wish more people in harness racing took into consideration the fans, because without the fans, there's no harness racing. And I think bringing this horse back and racing here is a major thing for the sport of harness racing. And I thank the Tigs for it, and I wish other trainers. What the Burke stable did with Foiled Again, I give them all the credit in the world, taking this horse all over the country. And even this year, he's making trips this year. Now, I was invited to go to Frederick, Maryland this Saturday because Foiled Again will be at Frederick, Maryland to meet the fans, and he's not going to race, of course, but he'll meet the fans. And to see the people get their picture taken, and anybody can walk up, hold the lead shank and everything, and he just stands there. He's used to it. And so for the Burke stable, I give them all the credit in the world and what they've done for harness racing with Foiled Again. It's just great to see people give back to our sport.
All right. Thanks to the three panelists up here. Roger, take us home, will you? Give us a B there.
It's early in the morning. Oh, by the way, I got the books over here, if anybody wants to buy one. Save you a trip up to Log Cabin. Be there!
Okay, folks, the next segment will start around 9 o'clock. We're going to shoot for 9:05. You will need a new raffle ticket, so stop up and see Skylar and Alex. They will give you a raffle ticket. You'll need a new raffle ticket for the second session, so please stop up and see Skylar and Alex, and they will get you your new raffle ticket.
I'm Wendy Ross for USTrotting.com. Well, it was a beautiful day for racing here in Delaware, Ohio, but the day is over. The dust has settled, and the 2018 Little Brown Jug champion is Courtly Choice. He gives David Miller his 5th Little Brown Jug title. Tons of highlights on the card. There were some highs and some lows, but Foiled Again was in town as he led the post parade for the first elimination of the Little Brown Jug. Let's take a look at all the action.
The great Foiled Again with trainer Ron Burke. Riding in the 2-seat jog cart, Susie Tell.
In the first elimination, Lather Up was tons the best and won easily for Team Teague. The only question is, how would he come back in the final?
Roughing pacing, this is the plan, and Lather Up go into that first turn. Let's Lather Up with the lead, and as they pass the stand for the first time, Nutcracker Sweet 5th. The Key Advisor is 6th, and trailing is West Delight. Halfway home in 55 and 3. Lather Up in the lead by a length and a quarter. On the outside, this is the plan. Down the stretch, it's Lather Up, drive away to win the first elimination. Montrell Tig in the sulky. The 3-year-old colt by I'm Gorgeous had a pocket comb. 149 and 3/5.
I think we got some left.
Yeah, happy, confident, and just hope he goes a little spin. But I will say a shout out to Josh Green. He kind of gave me a couple of ideas on how to change the bits, and that worked as better than anything else. So thank you, Josh.
Montrell, talk about how Lather Up was and how he did out there.
Man, he was awesome. I know everybody was worried about if he's going to make the round and a half or not, so I think we just answered some questions, and he felt great.
The second elimination was full of suspense as Stay Hungry was disqualified and placed 4th, drew post 8 in the final, but later scratched, crushing his pacing Triple Crown dreams. Second elimination favorite Courtly Choice had the rail, but made the break behind the gate early for Miller, rebounded with a big effort to be 3rd to make the final, and eventually went on to be the Little Brown Jug winner.
Pacing between horses, Hitman Hill. Inside Hayden Hanover, 3 wide into the turn, Stay Hungry. Passing the stands first time. We got 3 in, we got 3 out. Decoy second over on the outside and trailing the field, Courtly Choice. On the inside, it's Stay Hungry. In between horses, they come to the wire. Dorsadero Hanover, Courtly Choice on the outside. Stay Hungry on the inside, Dorsadero to the wire. It's Stay Hungry. The inquiry sign is posted against the unofficial winner, Stay Hungry. 2 inquiries. Possible interference going to the quarter and possible pylon violation around the final turn.
I saw
Andy Miller go to the paddock
they said
phone.
They went inside 3 pylons. I was watching it outside, so I never got a chance to see it. So I don't know, if he went inside or if he hit 1 or 2 or whatever he did. But just have to wait and see what happens.
Unofficial order of finish 4-5-1-2. 4-5-1-2. Unofficial. The inquiry sign is still posted. Number 4, Stay Hungry, has been disqualified and placed 4th for interference with number 2.
Okay, obviously a disappointment after being disqualified there, Tony. It's going to be tough from post 7 or 8, but as strong as he was, are you worried?
No, it's not going to be tough at all because I'm not racing him back. They want to set him back, I understand, but I'm not racing a horse back out the 8 hole.
Placed the winner, second elimination, number 5, Dorsadero Hanover.
Take us through the mile. Dorsadero Hanover put in a monster effort this afternoon.
He did. He raced super. There's a lot of things going on in that race, though. You know what I mean? Courtly Choice running behind the gate, then the interference going in the second turn. But my horse raced great. First up, he was digging hard. I mean, I thought he raced fantastic.
I knew something happened going in that first turn. You could see where we're all seeing that both, Andy and Brett were off the course. The horses wouldn't both do that without there being a reason. When you saw the replay, you could see that Stay Hungry runs in. He catches, the other Hayden's back leg. So I really thought we were third, though, so to be in place to second was going to be good, but now being placed to winner, it does make a totally different race for us. It gives us a chance,
Courtly Choice grinds it out in the stretch, proves that he's much the best today, gets to the winner's circle, and gives David Miller, the Buckeye, his 5th win on the day.
Here they come for the final of the Little Brown Jug. Up and pacing next, lather up, fast down the gate to grab the racetrack. Dorsett Hanover gets away second. Courtly Choice racing third into the turn. This is the plan, pacing fourth. Hayden Hanover fifth. On the backside, Dave's doing sixth, and the trailer is down the wall. Straight line down the backside for the first quarter mark. Lather up and home trail take the field over the opening quarter in 27 seconds. Into the turn, Dorsett Hanover is there second. Racing third is Courtly Choice around the turn fourth. This is the plan. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Racing sixth, Babes Digby and Bill on trails. No movement, straight alignment coming to the halfway point. On top of the field, it's lather up. Here comes Courtly Choice and David Miller on the outside. Halfway home in 54-4. 27-4, second panel. On top, lather up. Courtly Choice on the outside, second. Dorsett Hanover is there, third. This is the plan with cover on the outside, fourth. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Babes Digby sixth, and way back, done well. Going to the 3/4 mark. Lather up has the lead at the 3/4. 1:21-2. Around the final turn, Courtly Choice trying to come back on the outside. Dorsett Hanover's trying to find some racing room. They've got an 1/8 of a mile to go. Come, lather up, Courtly Choice.
All right. Well, once again, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 2019 United States Trotting Association Speaker Series, presented by the Harness Racing Fan Zone. We've got 3 fan favorites up front: Bill MacKenzie, Bill MacKenzie, Tony Alagna, and Casie Coleman. And we sort of spilled the beans in the last segment, Tony, so we're going to start with you. And let's just get this story out of the way now. Escape to the Beach is a jug contender, and we'll talk about his chances. Later on. But he took a liking to me, and he had to drag me around in Florida.
Yeah, I don't know if how many people follow a lot of the stuff that the USTA does on their social media and on their website, but one of the segments that they did this winter is they were going around to the farms in Florida. Michael Carter, Wendy Ross, and Richie, and the crew came, and we put Mike Carter in a jog cart, and he actually trained Escape to the Beach with a live camera. And it took the horse about 6 months to recover from that, but he's finally starting to come around and start to race back like we thought he should. So
it is one of the coolest experiences that I think I've had just in harness racing in general. If you've never done it, go visit the Tony Alagna barn. They have a double-seater jog cart. I don't know if he's got it here, so don't go visit him here, but go visit him in Jersey, go visit him in Florida. He's great with the public, as is Casie and Bill, and you want to see. So we got to share a special moment, but I got to share a special moment with Southwind Ozzy as well. Bill, let's take you back to May. His last race before that qualifier in June. You guys, gave him a couple weeks off. You brought him back in a qualifier at the Meadowlands, which I was lucky enough to get to announce. And I got to see the power of Southwind Ozzy. Talk about that qualifier a little bit and what it was like.
Well, he missed some time for hernia surgery, and he was good. We just got him ready. Brian just wanted to go enough to have him ready for the adios.
Now, Casie, you bring Stag Party to Delaware, Ohio, and you're no stranger to this oval. How's he been training leading up to the race?
He's been great the last couple weeks. He's obviously had a very disappointing year from what we're going to expect with him. Like, he won the Metro last year, and he was very, he went 52 over Grand River, which is a half-mile track in a gold race last year. So I was extremely excited about this colt training back, and he's just not been who he's supposed to be basically all year. He's basically pacing the same speeds this year as he did last year. Last two races, I've been thrilled with him. He raced great, but I got to say, when I saw that draw come out, things are they're looking pretty tough. 7-hole on this track, and that's definitely the stacked division. I believe it's a very, very tough division. The other division looks a little bit easier on paper, but you never know. But I definitely wish I had the 7-hole in the other race or had the rail in the race we're in. So he's good. He's feeling good. He's sharp. He's sound, healthy, but he's got his work cut out for him.
Bill, take us through Southwind Ozzy's 2-year-old season, and when did you notice that he finally turned the corner and became stakes caliber in the Grand Circuit type?
We never really knew if he was state caliber. We thought we had a shot at being state caliber because he was a late bloomer. Brought him back, and that's pretty much it.
Now, Tony, let's talk some U.S. captain and talk about bouncing back well after a 2-year-old season. He's really been sharp this year. Talk about his maturity from 2 to 3.
Yeah, we were always very high on this horse as a 2-year-old. We had high expectations when we bought him, of course, being a first crop Captain Treacherous out of American Jewel. But he showed flashes that he could do it, but he just didn't have the strength to carry it the whole mile. He showed a very good start, but he was weak on the end, and we just couldn't get it figured out where it was nothing more than immaturity. And we turned him out, we brought him back this winter. He trained back like a much more mature horse. And I think that even early in the year, he was still changing. And I think that now we're starting to see the horse that we thought he was, because he can put 4 quarters together where he couldn't do that before. And, he even impressed us the way he raced in the Messenger. The way he come first up on Better's Wish, who, was, has been nothing but, a model of consistency this year. And, he gave him a good run for the money. And he probably cost that horse being here today because he took such a big run at him, the last quarter of a mile.
Now, Casie, you alluded to post 7 being really tough. What kind of strategy do you have to employ when you draw tough here in Delaware?
Well, I'm glad that I'm not a driver no more, so I'm not the one that's got to figure that out. But Dave Miller obviously knows this track very well. He's a great driver. He's a Hall of Famer, and I got no idea what he's going to do. Like, no matter what, we're in trouble. You take back to last. It's hard to make up that much ground, and then if we fire, we know we're going to be that much more tired for the final. If we fire and it goes good, or maybe we end up parked, but I have no idea, and I never give drivers instructions. I'm not one to do that unless a horse is having particular problems, that it's getting overly hot, we got to duck, or it gets like, if there's a certain thing we need done, I'll tell the driver. But other than that, he knows the horse, he knows the race, he knows how to drive, so it's totally up to Dave Miller.
Now, Bill, you took Southwind Ozzy to Northfield Park in the Carl Milstein Memorial. That was kind of his first big test over the half-mile oval, and he was parked a mile. So did you learn a lot from that experience, or did he learn a lot from that experience, or do you think he still has more to learn over a half?
No, we learned a lot. We drew bad. Brian said, let's just, let the race play out and see what happens, see how he gets around it. So we knew if we would come here. So that's pretty much why we went there, see if he was good enough for the jug.
Now, from a conditioning standpoint, he's looked extremely tough thus far. Does 2 heats concern you at all?
No, he's come out of every race extremely well. He comes home from shipping, and he acts like he just came from around the corner after being on a truck for 7 hours. So really not worried about the double heats.
Now, Tony, let's talk Escape to the Beach a little bit. He transitioned well from 2 to 3, and he's kind of been playing, I don't want to say playing second fiddle, but kind of you know, he's always around. He's second, he's third, he's fourth. It's kind of your own little ATM machine, so to speak. What's he been like?
Yeah, same thing. You know, he's one of the horses that you know, I like to talk. He's a kind of a tweener. You know, he's better to me than most, but he's not at the top level. But you know, he's a horse that's very tactical. He can do it a lot of different ways. Of course, he drew the 8-hole today, so you know that's going to put a lot on his plate to try to get into the final. He did hit the right division. You know, he drew away from a lot of the tougher colts, but you know, going to have to put him into play a little bit and just see how it works. So you know, you can't come to Delaware and duck to last. So you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I know sitting last isn't going to work out.
Now, Casie, you've won this race before. What is it like to win the Little Brown Jug here in Delaware, Ohio? What is that feeling like for a trainer?
There's definitely no better feeling. Like, this is the crowd that's always here on Jug Day is absolutely insane, and yeah, there's no better feeling. The first time I ever won a race in Delaware was the Jug It with Western Silk, and it's to me, it's bigger than Breeders' Crown, North American Cup, Metro. It's just the atmosphere here, and everybody's all harness racing, and just, you know, never usually see 40,000 or whatever there is fans all around the racetrack cheering and having a good time, and no, it's awesome to just race here, let alone win here.
All right, do we promote fan interaction? So if you do have questions for any of these three guys up here, feel free to ask. Justin, let's hear it, buddy.
I have a question for all three. What's your favorite race you've ever won?
Bill, we'll start with you.
Well, right now, the biggest one I've got is the Adios with Ozzy. So.
Oh, that'd be very tough. You know, we've been very blessed. We've won a lot of major stake races, but I would say probably one that sticks out in my mind because it was our first major stakes win when I started in 2009. We won the Woodrow Wilson with a horse that we bought named Major Bombay, and he was a $60,000 yearling that ended up being our first stakes winner. So I would say that race was very special to win a race like that. 2 years into it with a horse that we purchased and took cradle to crown. That was probably one of the most memorable.
Casie?
Yeah, I'm going to say, as I just said, this is my favorite place to race, and obviously the purse wouldn't be the biggest, but I'm going to say my first Little Brown Jug, which was Michael's Power. First time I win it, brought Scotty Zeron, who was a Canadian, up here. Nobody really knew who he was, brought him to the States, and that really put him on the map also. And that he warmed up not the best that day. He was a little bit sore, and I was hemming and hawing if I'm going to have to scratch him that day because he really didn't warm up the best. Then he goes out and wins the race, and winning my first Little Brown Jug here in the crowd. And just that horse, we had him since a baby. Obviously, he was a homebred of Jeff Schneider's, and doing it with Scotty Zeron, it was pretty awesome.
Any other questions thus far? Okay, we're going to mix things up a little bit. I warned you guys, we're going to have some funny questions. We'll get to those in a minute, but this question's for all three of you, and Casie, we'll start with you. We talked a lot, or had a chance to talk with you a lot in Florida, hear some of your stories. What motivates you to keep going in the sport of harness racing?
Well, that's easy. Always looking for that next champion. It's like right now we're in the middle, all of us trainers are in the middle of doing a lot of baby shopping. We're at the farms nonstop, watching videos nonstop, studying pedigrees nonstop, just trying to find that next champion. And I myself had a bad year this year. I didn't pick the right ones. We had a bad year with the babies, so trying to find the right ones and get that next Little Brown Jug, Jug It, Breeders' Crown, North American Cup contender.
Bill?
Motivates me is just getting up every day and being able to work with these horses and being lucky enough to be able to do this for a living. Something I wanted to do since I was a little boy, so that's pretty much it.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with both Bill and Casie. You know, we're motivated by the animal. I always tell people that any of us could have chosen a different path in life, but I do it because of the love of the animal. So, I could have worked a 9-to-5 job after I went to college, but I do it because I do love the animal. I appreciate what they do. And, we're looking for the next, the great horse that's a game changer. I told everybody, that Captain Treacherous was a game changer for me. He put us into prominence, and as a stallion, he's doing the same thing for me as well, training his offspring. And I'm sure Casie feels that way. When you have a stallion that produces and puts great horses out on the racetrack, it gives you a sense of pride, and it makes you realize why you do this. And, it's not all a financial motivation. It's just a sense of pride of being able to get up every day and do what we love to do.
Now let's talk a little bit about Captain Treacherous. I know he holds a special place in your heart, and you've gotten a chance to kind of train some of his babies. How proud of him are you after such an amazing racing career to go on and do such amazing things in the breeding shed?
I'm very proud of him. I mean, he was our first major stakes horse. He was our first stallion. So, since then we've had Art Speak and Racing Hill, and now Stay Hungry. But to have that first horse that was a horse first crop Sun Beach somewhere, we went to bat for that horse. We bought him. We knew we were going to buy him. We well supported his first crop, second crop. We spent a lot of money on his offspring. We went all in. Like when I went to the sale the first year, we bought 17 Captain Treacherouses. Nobody knew what he was going to be. We hoped with the mares that he got that he was going to be a great horse, a great producer, but we didn't know. Nobody knows on a first crop stallion exactly what you're going to get, but we had faith with the mare book that he got. We took a shot, and he's rewarded us with great horses. So right now we have a colt racing Canada, Captain Midnight, that happens to be out of a mare that I actually raced. So when you have that, you're training offspring of a stallion that you trained and a mare that you raced. I mean, there's no greater feeling.
Now, Casie, you guys made the decision to bring back McWicked last year, and what an amazing season he had. He's really rounded back into form well, and yeah, that deserves a round of applause, huh? After a year or so off, let's talk a little bit about McWicked and what kind of pressure for a trainer is it to kind of bring back a horse of the year from the year before?
Yeah, McWicked, he's not your average horse. He's something special. There's no doubt about that. He's 8 years old now, and I think he's going just as strong now as he ever was. Even when he got beat his first starts of the year there, he won his first start of the year, then I had issues with his foot again, which I've had issues with that foot ever since he's a 3-year-old. It's just never gone away for him. He was a little bit under condition when that happened, so he should have been trained up a little harder, but I had no choice. We had to get him sound, so he was short and got beat a few. But now that he's up and going, like I know that night that Montreal Teague won at the Meadowlands, we hit the mile marker in 46-3, I think it was, 46-4, and then they come another back 8th in like 12, and that's the fastest McWicked's ever been, and he got beat. He actually ended up 3rd that day. But no, he's been just awesome. I wouldn't say there's any pressure. His owner's great. Ed James, he's the owner of SSG Gloves. Some people know him through that ways, and there's not really that much pressure. If the horse ends up that he doesn't show he can compete top level, Ed will retire him when that time comes. As soon as he's sore, sick, or he just can't compete at the top level, he will be retired. He's had every stud farm there is pretty much contact Ed, offering him great stud deals to stand this stud, and Ed doesn't want to. He says, I'm 87 years old, he's got money, enjoys watching his horse race, and this horse, if he'll race till he's 14, I think. If he keeps winning and keeps going, this horse will keep racing. And he has bred a few of his own homebreds, but he doesn't have that many foals on the ground, but he does have a few homebreds, and I believe you will see McWicked come back again at 9 as long as he finishes his year strong.
Hey, Casie, the 2016 Jug champion, betting line. Any update? Do you have any yearlings from that crop?
His first crop is selling this year. I've seen a lot of them so far, most of the Lexington ones. Haven't seen Harrisburg yet. I'm thrilled with them. I've already got a half dozen picked out that as long as they go in the price range I want to spend. I'm basically my plan this year. I only bought 6 babies last year. I had 10 in my barn with 4 others sent to me. I'm planning to do probably around 15, I think, this year, and it will be the majority betting lines is what I want. I mainly want to load up on him. Obviously, I'll get a few others, get a Captain Treacherous if I can afford one, but they're kind of expensive, and a couple of my other studs. But no, they look phenomenal, and he, honestly, out of all the studs I've had, betting line's worst mare that the breeders gave him would be the best one Sports Writer, better than Cheddar ever got. Like the mares he got supported him are awesome. They look awesome. He was bred great, and that horse was just a freak. It was scary how fast he was. So I'm extremely excited to see how his offspring does.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we're going to give away a couple of prizes, all of them sponsored by Tony. He's got $1 million he's going to give. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Tony. We'll give away a couple of prizes, a couple of door prizes, and a Hoofbeat subscription. So, first prize, grab bag 105270. 105270. Anybody? 270. All right, step on up here and see Alex and Skylar. We'll give away our Hoofbeat subscription next. That's 105272. 105-272. All right. Stop up here. They'll get you taken care of. And 105-268. 105-268.
Stay here tonight, go to Hoosier tomorrow to race.
All right. Ah, the birthday boy. Stop up here and get a prize out of the grab bag box. All right. Now we'll go back to the three stars up front. Bill, this question's for you specifically. You know, you're a young guy like me, probably a little younger than me, but that's okay. I'm just kidding. When someone finds out what you do, what's the first question you're asked? You know, being a trainer in the sport of harness racing is obviously one of those cool jobs that a lot of people dream of having. What's one question that people ask?
They ask, first they think I train thoroughbreds, so they think I'm too tall. That's usually the first question. After that, they're astounded, and I'm stuck there explaining what I do for about an hour, which is, so I don't tell a lot of people what I do.
Tony, I'm going to point that question at you because we know you're not a jockey, so go for it.
Well, I actually, just like Bill said, the most people say, "What do you do?" I say, "I train horses." Then they look at me, and then they look at my stomach, and then they look at me again, and they said, "You're no jockey." And I said, "No, that's not what I said." So, but then that usually the second question they ask, unfortunately, is, and we're all here and we're being honest. The next question they say is, "Isn't it rigged?" And that's the first thing that you have to really go out of your way to explain to people that that our gambling product isn't rigged, that we put a lot of money into these horses. We put a lot of time and devotion. We race for good purses. There's no reason for people to, fix a race. But, that kind of, misconception goes along with back in the day when, they raced for $1,000. There were races were rigged. People did that because they had to make a living. But, nowadays you have to get that mentality out of people's mind that, we race for $40,000, $50,000 in an overnight race. There's too much to lose to rig a race. So, once you explain that to people, they have a lot better understanding of what we do every day.
Casie, I'm going to give you an easier one, and actually I'm surprised he's not here. Tell us about Chubbs.
Tell you about Chubbs. Okay, he's Chubby. He's my dog. I didn't expect that question really up here. He's my Jack Russell Terrier dog, and he's 11 years old now. I've had him since a pup. I actually bought him at the horse sale in Lexington, Kentucky. Probably best buy I ever made in Lexington, Kentucky, probably. And actually, me and my husband Mark were talking about, we saw a few dogs in the fairgrounds. We've even said, man, we could have brought him. Maybe we should have brought the little fella, because I've been on the road about a week, and I might even stay on the road for another week or two here right now. So won't see him for a little bit, and he's like my kid. So that makes it tough not seeing the little fella for a little bit.
He's kind of a world traveler, isn't he? He likes to travel with you?
Oh, yeah, when he goes everywhere. He goes to Florida with us. When we're in Toronto, everywhere I go, he comes. I even, when I'm training in the mornings at Mohawk, there's no dogs allowed, but I just kind of tell him he's a cat and bring him with me right into the paddock some mornings if I know. But he's at the barn every day, and he goes everywhere I go pretty much. Even in Florida, they got a lot of dog-friendly restaurants, and we try to hit those ones with the patios, and he lives the life.
Tony, what is one of the most amazing adventures or adventurous things you've ever done?
Oh, boy, I wouldn't
Keep
even
it PG,
I was
please.
going to say, I wouldn't even know where to go with that. So I will tell you the most adventurous story I had last week. That could be, that probably is good enough. We were flying back to Lexington last Sunday, and we had booked a plane, Doug McNair and a bunch of us, Bob McClure, myself, Doug's parents, and Linda Toscano and Paula Wellwood took a jet because we had to be there at 3 o'clock for the Sire Stakes finals on Sunday. So we left Sunday morning after the Metro. She's a Great Lady elimination Saturday night. And we landed in Lexington, which was no problem, beautiful flight. And all of a sudden we hear a loud pop, and we lost both engines when we hit the ground. And they threw the emergency brake on, and when they did, they blew both tires on the plane. So now we're sitting on the middle of the active runway in Lexington with no engines and no tires. And I said to the people on the plane, I said, boys and girls, you don't know what just happened, but we just landed in Lexington on a Sunday afternoon. This is not going to be a fast process. So I said, things move very slowly in Lexington on a Sunday. So we were coming from Canada, so we had customs clearance before we could get off the plane, and there was one customs agent. So we had sat on a plane for about 45 minutes waiting, and they finally let us off the plane, and we didn't know it, but unbeknownst to us, a lot of owners were coming in for the races, and they couldn't land in Lexington because we had the only runway blocked. So they all had to go to Louisville, and some of them got off the plane and took an Uber to get to the track. Some of them they wouldn't let off the plane, so they had to wait to get fuel and come back. So it really made a mess of the day for the Kentucky finals. But you know, the good news is the engines blew on the ground.
Everybody was safe, so that's
Yes.
that's a key.
Yeah.
Bill, what about you? Most adventurous thing or adventure that you've been on, whether it be zip lining, careening over the falls, whatever?
No, the most adventurous thing I went on was a 10-day cruise with my wife. You know, and I'm still married, so.
I hope she's at home watching. All right. Casie, you've got a lot of people who work for you. That's got to be fun. What's your favorite "my coworkers are crazy" story? And keep it G.
Oh wow, I don't even know which one to go with when you gotta keep it and you gotta keep it. I really don't even know how to answer that one.
You
right
can
now.
take it up to PG if you want. Whatever. We're all adults here.
I'm thinking still right now. Like definitely back when I had 130 head, we had a big staff. Obviously now it's pretty tame. I only got 5 horses right now, so it's pretty tame. There's not a lot of staff, but. Man, I'm just trying to think. I'm really drawing a blank right now. There's 1,000 different stories, and you need to ask somebody else that story first and let me think of one.
I'll come back, Tony. I'm sure you've got one. You've got a ton of people who work for you as well, and I'm sure we've all got that crazy coworker. Mine is Rich, but no, I'm just kidding, Rich, our camera guy. Anyways, I could pick on Rich a little bit, but what's your favorite or "my coworkers are crazy" story?
My coworkers are crazy story. Boy, that's a tough one. Like Casie said, I'm sure this afternoon we'd think of 100 of them that went on. But I would say probably one of the best adventures that I had was when I worked for Irv Miller. We used to take horses up to Canada. So when we ship up there, we'd take maybe one caretaker with us from the States, but we'd rely on hiring a lot of help up in Canada. And one summer they told me I set the Canadian record for the most employees. I think we went through 26 one summer. And one time I hired this gal, and she said, you know, I'm ready. I love the horses. I want to start working. And I said, okay. I said, why don't you go in there and help this kid here? He'll kind of show you the ropes a little bit of how we do things. So he started her in, and she started cleaning the stall, and he's teaching her how to get the horses ready like we do. And we clocked her that she lasted about 50 minutes. And I come in off the track, she said, I'm just not cut out for this. So I think that was the record. I had one employee for 50 minutes. So.
Casie, I got one I think that you'll remember pretty, as everybody knows, Casie and Tony both have TV surveillance in their stables. But there was a beautiful young lady that was working for Casie, and Casie was having a little bit of trouble with infections in the barn, so she said, bleach everything, bleach everything. So at the end of the day, they even bleached the rubber mats and the floors, and the young lady's walking down through the stable with a 5-gallon pail of water and she flips upside down on her ass on the floor, and Casie played it on Facebook there a couple of times. And back and forth. But another day we were training, and McWicked was training in a group of 3, and I'd walked out of the barn and I said, which one do I go to? I'm going to go to the filly. I went to Alexis Face, and McWicked's groom went to McWicked, and I don't know, McWicked got horny and he reared up and he smacked the boy right in the top of the hat and down his back, and she had that on video. So those are 2 pretty remarkable stories.
Yeah, Jack's right there. I forgot about that. Like I said, there's so many stories. Like I said, me and Tony will probably think about 1,000 of them later this afternoon if you guys want to come by and hear them just right on the spot. But as he said, anybody that's on my Facebook, we've had some very funny bloopers happen on my cameras. And whenever I hear something happen, I'm like, where did that happen at exactly and what time? And I'll go rewind my cameras, and I've taken videos and put it up on Facebook. And the one girl, she started new for me this year, and she did a blooper where she went down. She fell, slipped, and whatever she did, it was pretty funny looking. And I took the video, put it on Facebook. She says to me later, "I can't believe you put that on Facebook, and it's already got 400 views." I said, 400, that's it? I said, just wait a little longer. And by the end of the day, I think it had about 4,000 views on it. And yeah, there's obviously been some pretty funny things that happen on there.
Casie, you get to take a lot of trips and things. What's the most adventurous thing you've done?
I'm going to say adventure. I'm probably going to say we went to Bora Bora about 3 years ago. Me and my husband Mark went to Bora Bora, and he decided we wanted to go swim with sharks. I wasn't so sure about swimming with the sharks, and I'm thinking that you go in a cage. They put you in a cage and you lower you down, and you see these sharks go around you. So we do the trip. We get on the boat. We go. They start feeding these sharks. We're outside this boat. There's sharks all over the place, black tip and lemon, and they're feeding them. They're throwing all this food out. These things are jumping up, their teeth showing. All of a sudden, the guy goes, "Okay, they're full now. Pool's open, jump in." And there's maybe about 6 of us on the boat. Well, Mark jumped in. The rest of us were just standing back waiting to see if he gets eaten or not. Everything seemed good. We jumped in, and I gotta say it was the most awesome experience I ever had in my life, but your heart's just pounding. You're down there snorkeling and swimming, and these things are coming right at you with their teeth. They tell you not to have your fingers wiggling or anything like that in case they think it's food. And I would never do it again because I was scared to death, but I'm so glad I did do it because it was an experience like none other.
Did he jump in or did you push him in?
He jumped, but we were going to make sure he was the first one in, see how it all went first.
All right. Bill, let's turn it over to you for a second. This is your first jug. What would it mean to you to win the big race?
It's everything, It's what, like I said, Tony said before, it's what we dream about as little kids, and just to be here, and have a chance at it is there's no words for it for me.
What's it been like to kind of train him? Obviously, you got the Adios victory this year with him, and he's just such a powerful presence on the racetrack. What's it been like to be around him?
Well, it's great to be around. I mean, he just does everything right. I kind of didn't know what kind of horse he was, but every single time we ask him to do the next thing, he does it with no problem. And, we just keep moving forward week to week with this guy, and, he just seems special.
Now, Tony, obviously when you train horses, there's a spark, and you just know when that horse is going to be the next great thing out of your stable. When do you know that, and when does the light switch kind of flip?
Well, I think it varies with a lot of horses. I can speak for Bill and Casie and say, we've definitely had horses that have surprised us how far they've went to the next level. They maybe weren't the best training early, but they came around and turned the corner. But horses that are truly special, I think off the bat. Everybody said to me, "When did you know the captain was special?" And I said, in January. And they said, "Well, how could you know in January?" I said, "Well, mostly because the rest of them were so bad." But I said, he was just, he was one of those horses that always did a little bit extra. Like he just, at the end of a mile, you'd ask him and he'd find another gear. And Timmy and I, Tetrick, who drove him his whole career, we look back on it and laugh because at the time that I had captain, I had just started going out. I just went out on my own 2 years previously. And I had, of course, known Timmy from Illinois forever. We grew up, or he grew up, of course, under me because he's younger, but I knew his family, I knew him. And at the time, he had a very strong account with Ray Schnichter and for Linda Toscano. So he'd always give me a hard time, and he'd say, "Why don't you use me more?" I said, I don't have enough power to use you. You got 2 strong barns. I said, I don't have anything good enough. I said, "Don't worry, I'll have one good enough someday." And we always joked about it. So I see him in April of Captain's 2-year-old year. He'd never seen the horse, never trained him. Nobody knew who he was. Of course, he hadn't even baby raced. And I told him at the Meadowlands, I said, "I've got one this year so good you won't even be able to choose off of him." So he said, "Okay, well, we'll see." So that ended up being Captain Treacherous, and he drove him every start of his career.
You know why he was so good in April, right? Because I trained him in February.
Yeah.
Casie, same thing for you. Obviously, you train down the babies, and there's got to be that spark or that moment when you say, "Hey, I got one."
Pretty much same answer Tony just give you. Let's say that the extremely special ones that I've had, like Betting Line, Sports Writer, Better Than Cheddar, those horses, honestly, in 3-minute miles, they just had that extra gear, that extra, like they knew what they were doing, and it was just all systems go, and you would swear you're training a 3-year-old and not a baby. So horses like that, they were right from the beginning. You just knew that they were something special and exciting. Saying that, I've had other horses, like Tony had said, horses that train down good. I've had many that train down good and really disappointed me. We thought they were training down great, everything seemed good, and then whether if they got sick or lame or simply just didn't have it once it was time to go. And vice versa. I've had horses that I thought were just like, I'll name, she's not a great horse, but that horse, Alexis Faith, that I still got racing, I didn't think she was much at all. I really didn't like her much training down. I only staked her in sire stakes, and I didn't think she was nothing special, and that horse made about 600,000. So you get some horses that surprise you in a good way too, but I will say you do have a lot that definitely surprise you in a bad way.
All right, we're going to give away 3 more door prizes, and then we're going to wrap up with one final question with these guys. I promise that I went over and pulled them out of the bucket. They're sequential again. We did that yesterday. I don't know how we did it 2 days in a row, but 105, 291, 292, and 293. 105, 291, 92, and 93. Stop over and see those guys. I promise I pulled them out of the bucket. Not on purpose like that. I hate it when that happens. But 291, 292, 293. All right. We're going to wrap this thing up with one final question for you guys, and we'll start with you, Casie. For any new people coming into the business, a lot of people want to learn about the business, want to learn how to do this. What advice would you give them?
There's all kinds of good advice. A lot of people do those I don't know how much they still do them, but new owner seminars to get more information for yourself are great. When you start out, don't start out too big, I guess. Make sure you start out wherever you're comfortable. Don't think that you're going to hit a home run and spend all your money on one horse. If you're going to do it, you're better to get a smaller piece of a few different horses, so you have a better chance of making a good horse. Because if you just buy one baby and it doesn't make out, maybe say you're going to buy 25% of one baby, maybe buy in small pieces of a few different ones to start out. Do your homework, talk to some people about what trainers are best, what owners are best, make sure you have a partnership that you like, and let's say just have fun. Don't go into it thinking you're going to hit a home run, and do it as an investment. Do it as making sure you're going to have fun and hope that you make it a good investment and make money. And make sure, a lot of things too I like making sure it's a trainer that has their own skin in the game too. They own a piece of the horse, and they got their own skin in the game, and everything's getting done the way it should be. Visit the barn, make sure you're happy with the environment you're in, and go from there.
Bill?
I think a lot of people love to be in this business, and it's hard, but you start out slow and maybe go work for somebody and get your hands wet and see what goes on. As an owner, I think, like Casie said, I'm starting to do that now. That's what I did with Southwind Aussie. I didn't have a lot of partners on horses. Everybody bought their own horse, and makes a lot more sense to take small pieces, keep your bills down. And you got a lot better chance of having something that makes it to the races.
Tony?
Yeah, I would agree with both Casie and Bill on that. As a new person getting into the business, as far as an owner, one of the questions we get asked a lot of times is, myself and some of my partners will have somebody approach them and say, we want to get in the business. What's it going to take? And the first thing we said, well, how much do you want to lose? And what do you mean? I'm going to lose money? Well, chances are, but don't put the house payment up trying to buy a horse, because where there's no guarantees. But if you feel comfortable that you can spend X amount of dollars, and if you lose that money, then it's not going to change your lifestyle or affect you in any way. Take a shot. But like you say, back in the day, one of my favorite sayings is one guy used to own 5 horses, now 5 guys own 1 horse. So if you feel like you can comfortably afford to buy a horse with X amount of dollars, and you want to pay training bill on 1 horse, So go out and buy 10% of 10 horses, or go buy 20% of 5 horses. You know, spread your risk a little bit, give you a chance to hit a home run. If you're buying something that has a chance to be a stallion, Casie can tell you as good as anybody, you know, that you can make a lot of money owning 20-25% of a stallion. So, you know, if you can take that kind of risk and spread it out, you know, why not? And as far as a young person getting into business, I feel we have a real lack of that in our industry. I see more young people in Canada than I ever see here in the U.S. When you go to the paddock in Canada, it's full of young people, which I think is a great thing. We don't have that here in the States as much, and I don't know why. I wish we did, because, you know, I always tell people, somebody took a chance on me, I would love to take a chance on somebody else. But, you know, you have to have somebody that wants to do it. And there's a real lack of people that want to do what we do. And I don't know if it's because, you know, they see it's not an easy lifestyle. It's travel, it's work, it's long hours. You get out of this business what you put into it. And I do wish there was more young people that would approach me and say, hey, I really want to learn how to do this, and I want to do it at the best level. You know, a lot of people have a misconception with myself or Casie. We started in very humble origins. It's not like I walked into Lexington and somebody bought a $100,000 yearling for me. I mean, my family, we grew up racing county fair horses and 4-claimers, you know, and I mean, we did it very humble means. I lived in a dorm room in Fairmount Park when I was in school. I used to paddock on the weekends for guys, so I had some, you know, spending money. So it's not like I woke up one day and, you know, just walked to Lexington and bought $100,000 horses. So, you know, I wish there was young people that would approach us and say, what can I do to be in this business and do it at a top level? I'd love to help somebody else.
All right, let's give it up for Bill, Tony, and Casie. Stop up, say hello. Sure, they'd love to talk with you a little bit. Our next session will be with John Campbell at 10 o'clock. For those who are sticking around for the John Campbell segment, we've got some special goodies to give away during that segment, so make sure you are here in attendance for the John Campbell seminar. That's at 10 o'clock.
Omega Alpha, your source for effective supplements through science since 1992, including Regeneric, Iotic 8, Hemex, Equine Liver Flush, Healthy Horse, Testos Boost, Minorec, Equine Anti-Flam, and many more.
Hello everyone, I'm Wendy Ross for USTrotting.com. Well, it was a beautiful day for racing here in Delaware, Ohio, but the day is over, the dust has settled, and the 2018 Little Brown Jug champion is Courtly Choice. He gives David Miller his 5th Little Brown Jug title. Tons of highlights on the card. There were some highs and some lows, but Foiled Again was in town as he led the post parade for the first elimination of the Little Brown Jug. Let's take a look at all the action.
The great Foiled Again with trainer Ron Burke. Riding in the 2-seat jog cart, Susie Tell.
In the first elimination, Lather Up was tons the best and won easily for Team Teague. The only question is, how would he come back in the final?
Roughing pacing, this is the plan, and Lather Up go into into that first turn. Let's lather up with the lead. And as they pass the standard the first time, Nutcracker Sweet fifth. The Key Advisor is sixth, and trailing is West Delight. Halfway home in 55 and 3. Lather up in the lead by a length and a quarter on the outside. This is the plan. Down the stretch, it's lather up, drive away to win the first elimination. Montrell Tig in the sulky. The 3-year-old colt by I'm Gorgeous had a pocket comb. 149 and 3/5.
I think we left some left. Got some left.
Yeah, happy, confident, and just hope he gives a little spin. But I will say a shout out to Josh Green. He kind of gave me a couple of ideas on how to change the bits, and that worked as better than anything else. So thank you, Josh.
Montrell, talk about how lather up was and how he did out there.
Man, he was awesome. I know everybody was worried about if he's going to make the round and a half or not, so I think we just answered some questions, and he felt great.
The second elimination was full of suspense as Stay Hungry was disqualified and placed fourth, drew post 8 in the final, but later scratched, crushing his pacing Triple Crown dreams. Second elimination favorite Courtly Choice had the rail, but made the break behind the gate early for Miller, rebounded with a big effort to be third to make the final, and eventually went on to be the Little Brown Jug winner.
Pacing between horses Hitman Hill. Inside Hayden Hanover, 3 wide into the turn, Stay Hungry. Passing stands first time. We got 3 in, we got 3 out. Decoy second over on the outside and trailing the field, Courtly Choice. On the inside, it's Stay Hungry. In between horses, they come to the wire. Dorset Earl Hanover, Courtly Choice on the outside. Stay Hungry on the inside, Dorset Earl to the wire. It's Stay Hungry. The inquiry sign is posted against the unofficial winner, Stay Hungry. 2 inquiries. Possible interference going to the quarter and possible pylon violation around the final turn.
I saw
Andy Miller go to the paddock
they said
phone.
They went inside 3 pylons. I was watching it outside, so I never got a chance to see it. So I don't know, if he went inside or if he hit 1 or 2 or whatever he did. But just have to wait and see what happens.
Unofficial order of finish 4-5-1-2. 4-5-1-2. Unofficial. The inquiry sign is still posted. Number 4, Stay Hungry, has been disqualified and placed 4th for interference with number 2.
Okay, obviously a disappointment after being disqualified there, Tony. It's going to be tough from post 7 or 8, but as strong as he was, are you worried?
No, it's not going to be tough at all because I'm not racing him back. They want to set him back, I understand, but I'm not racing a horse back out of the 8 hole.
Placed the winner, second elimination. Number 5, Dorset Earl Hanover.
Take us through the mile. Dorset Earl Hanover put in a monster effort this afternoon.
He did. He raced super. There's a lot of things going on in that race, though. You know what I mean? Courtly Choice running behind the gate, then the interference going in the second turn. But my horse raced great. First up, he was digging hard. I mean, I thought he raced fantastic.
I knew something happened going in that first turn. You could see where we're all seeing that both, Andy and Brett were off the course. The horses wouldn't both do that without there being a reason. When you saw the replay, you could see that Stay Hungry runs in. He catches, the other horse, Hayden's back leg. So I really thought we were third, though. So to be in place to second was going to be good. But now being placed to winner, it does make a totally different race for us. It gives us a chance,
Courtly Choice grinds it out in the stretch, proves that he's much the best today, gets to the winner's circle, and gives David Miller, the Buckeye, his 5th win on the day.
Here they come for the final of the Little Brown Jug. Pacing next, lather up, fast down on the gate to grab the racetrack. Dorset Earl Hanover gets away second. Courtly Choice racing third into the turn. This is the plan. Facing fourth, Hayden Hanover fifth. On the backside, Dave's Damon sixth, and the trailer is done well. Straight along the backside for the first quarter mark. Line up and home trail take the field over the opening quarter in 27 seconds. Into the turn, Dosar Hanover is there second. Racing third is Coleman Choice around the turn fourth. This is the plan. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Racing sixth, Babes Digby and Done Well trails. No movement, straight alignment coming to the halfway point. On top of the field, it's Lather Up. Here comes Courtly Choice and David Miller on the outside. Halfway home in 54-4. 27-4, second panel. On top, Lather Up. Courtly Choice on the outside, second. Dorset Earl Hanover is there, third. This is the plan with cover on the outside, fourth. Hayden Hanover is fifth. Babes Dig Me sixth, and way back, Done Well. Going to the three-quarter mark. Lather Up has the lead at the three quarters. 1:21-2. Around the final turn, Courtly Choice trying to come back on the outside. Dorset Earl Hanover's trying to find some racing room. They've got an eighth of a mile to go. Come, Lather Up, Courtly Choice, Dorset Earl Hanover. Down the stretch they come. It's Lather Up, Courtly Choice, Dorset Earl Hanover with a rush. Three of them across the track. Who's it going to be? It's Courtly Choice. Miller time!
Look at Miss Fisher and where's the other?
Blake, you put up the supplemental money, and boy, kind of talk about putting where your money where your mouth is. What an impressive performance by Courtly Choice.
He's just awesome. You know, like to have a horse like him's once in a lifetime. I'll never have another one like him. I know it. You know, like I'm a realist. I buy cheap yearlings, and to have one like him is just amazing. You know.
Obviously, he had everything go against him. He made a break at the start, had to come three wide. Was there any concern about the second heat?
No, I was actually happier to be off the rail with him. You know, I was a little worried when not worried when we drew the rail, but I was, you know, because I knew that, you know, if you tried to rush him too much, he will get a little skippy, and, you know, that's what happened. And then, you know, I just about puked when he made the break, and I was worried, but, you know, it all worked out.
You know, he's just a very game horse that don't give in, you know, and you can't knock a horse, you know, when they're like that, you have a lot of confidence in him, and I have a lot of confidence in him.
This is the fifth victory in the Little Brown Jug. What's that mean to you?
I don't have words for it, because the Great Horseman was the only one that ever did it.
This is the fifth time you've signed this, and the first time, with no pun intended, your hand was shaking like that, buddy.
Anybody want a flower?
Yeah. There you go, David.
Guys, making your way, you supplemented, you had a plan to come to the Little Brown Jug. It worked out. How does it feel getting the victory today?
It was a plan. It was a plan to winning the race, you know. Our horse is really good, and we were very confident to be here today.
After that first elimination, after making the break, he came back, won a heck of a mile, but how are you feeling going into the final?
We felt like we'd win the final.
David,
what he did is he broke when the race started, when the elimination started, and then he still came in third, and he wasn't far behind, you know, some of the other horses. So he could have very easily won that race if he hadn't broken.
Omega Alpha, your source for effective supplements through science since 1992, including Regeneric, Iotic 8, Hemex, Equine Liver Flush, Healthy Horse, Testos Boost, Minorec, Equine Anti-Flam, and many more.
I'm Wendy Ross with the USTA. Have you checked out your USTA My Account lately? If not, be sure to pop over to your My Account home screen to see some of the newest features available. Don't have an account? You can sign up in 4 simple steps. All you need is your USTA membership number and a valid email. Listen as one of our member services representatives gives you the inside edge.
Hi, I'm Amy Hawk, the Assistant Registrar of the USTA. Today we're going to go through USTA loan submission through your USTA My Account. Ditch the pencil and paper and submit your list of mayor's bread electronically online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The USTA strives on making paperwork easier for our members and should be no different for our breeders. Whether you're a commercial breeder and you stand 10 stallions or you're a small breeder who stands 1, submitting your list of mayor's bread and releasing your mating certificates just became a heck of a lot easier. You can submit your service report, release the mating certificates online at your convenience. Simply log into your USTA My Account and select Online Services. From the menu, select Horse and then List a Mare's Bread to start recording. Be sure to have the dam's name, first and last breeding dates. You can submit the entire list at one time, but be sure to have it submitted by September 1st of the breeding year to avoid penalty. Once your list is recorded and the stud fees are paid, the following year you can release your mating certificates online instead of mailing the old school green certificates. On your My Account home screen in your My Horses section, you will select List of Mare's Bread link, select the stallion, the respective year, and the broodmare's name to release a mating certificate. The USTA is notified instantly of the release and requires no further action from you. And be sure to check out your USTA My Account for membership details, perks, and services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Once again, our next session begins at 10. Have some conversations with John Campbell from the Hambletonian Society. Looks like all the harness racing updates are gone. We do have some t-shirts we're going to be giving away. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to win one. Alex and Skylar, raise your hand. Make sure you see them for a raffle ticket. If you have a ticket from previous sessions, they are no good anymore. You'll need a new one. So make sure to stop up and see Skylar and Alex. You will need a new raffle ticket if you haven't gotten one yet. Or if you have one from a previous session, you'll need a new one. Make sure you're getting a raffle ticket. Got some great prizes, including a membership to JT Investments. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't have the graph to show you, so we can't do that. But we'll be starting here in just a couple of minutes. Once again, if you're just coming in, make sure you're getting a raffle ticket. We're going to have some t-shirts to give away. John's going to come over and sign a few of them. Get your raffle ticket because to get a signed shirt, you're going to need a raffle ticket. You're going to need a raffle ticket. Stop up. Alex and Skylar, raise your hands for me. Stop up and see our 2 USTA interns. They do a great job each and every day for us. Again, John's going to come over and sign a couple of items over here for the t-shirts. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure you get those raffle tickets. Completely free to play our game as we highlight Little Brown Jug Day 2019. All right, once again, we're going to get started here in just a moment or so. We're going to have some signed John Campbell shirts to give away. We're also going to have some more John Campbell shirts to give away while supplies last. If you haven't gotten a raffle ticket, come over and see our two interns over here. Our two magnificent interns, except for Alex. He went to the racetrack program, so he's not magnificent. Just kidding, just kidding. But stop over and see the two of them. They do a great job for the USTA for Hoof Beats for Youth Beats. Our man Jason Turner over here. If you haven't signed up for Hoof Beats or Youth Beats and have questions about that, you can see our man Jason Turner over here. He'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. Again, we're going to get started here in just a moment. Make sure you have raffle tickets, though. Make sure you have raffle tickets. Okay, so just kidding. We're not going to have John Campbell. You're going to have to listen to me, okay? Laugh? Anybody? God. No wonder my wife tells me I'm not funny. All right, we're going to get started here in just a minute, guys. Okay, we got a couple of harness racing updates left. If anybody wants one, raise your hand. Okay. Are you sure? All right. John's going to step up here. We're going to have some conversation with John. All right. So you know we play this game when we order T-shirts. They never have the right size, right? Okay, so we have extra large and we have small. Normally it's large and extra large or medium and large, you know, whatever. So we have smalls. We're going to talk to John for just a second and we'll get this thing started.
Sure. I won't embarrass you too bad. No worries. I can take it.
All right, folks, let's give it up for the man, John Campbell. Let's let him know that you're in the house today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, John. Let's start with your driving career. Do you miss driving? And what's the transition been like for you from becoming a driver to becoming an executive?
Well, I do miss it, although not as much as I did even the first couple of years. And to be perfectly honest, when I did miss it, it was only when the weather was good. And I never gave it a thought in the wintertime, to tell you the truth. And it only takes about 4 drops of rain for me to say I'm glad I'm not out there anymore. But I did, especially when you'd come to here in Delaware or Lexington and the weather was beautiful, or the Meadowlands and the stake horses were racing, and I'd look out and I'd say, you know, I'd have a pretty good chance of driving that one. But, you know, it's been long enough that that's starting to wane. As far as the transition, it's been a great transition for me. You know, I had a great run, but it had to be over sometime, and I think the fact that I was approached by the Hambletonian Society about this, it came along at a good time for me. I enjoy my role at the Hambletonian Society and where my place is in harness racing right now. Some days are frustrating, but for the most part, I have a good day every day. And the staff at the Society, and especially Maura Fanning, has just been incredible to work with. And the passion that comes out of the staff at the Hambletonian Society is something that I'm very proud of. And but it was an attitude that was, you know, has been there forever as far as the Society, and it certainly was Tom Charters was a big influence on just how much passion and care and what the staff feels about harness racing at the Hambletonian Society.
Now, for those who don't know me or how my career kind of got started, I got started at Shenandoah Downs in Woodstock, Virginia, where John actually just came from. And John, you got to sit behind the great foiled again, and we'll get to that in a second. But what was the atmosphere like at Shenandoah Downs? It started as a fair track, and then the Kuhn brothers came in. They redid the entire racetrack and set it up to be a pure mutual track.
It was a great experience for me to go to Shenandoah. It was very similar to the atmosphere that I grew up with. Small tracks in Ontario, people there just loving harness racing. And then there was a crowd there in the grandstand. They cheered like crazy when they left and cheered like crazy when they finished. They were betting. You know, they don't bet big money, but they're betting, and they've got the people with the portable machines around there taking bets throughout the grandstand, and it really was, and you know, just something I could really relate to because it's the way I grew up in the industry, and the same with the horsemen. You know, everybody that was there, they know they're not going to get rich that day, but there's such a community atmosphere among the horsemen until they step on the track, and then they're you know, the competition was intense, but it was really a good day for me. And then, you know, obviously getting to go with foil again was special.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You threw the colors back on, you got back in the bike. What was it like to get back in the bike, and what was it like to sit behind foiled again?
Well, it was pretty easy for me to get back. It was actually a jog cart, wasn't that hard. But, you know, I was very fortunate, I guess, that driving horses just came natural for me, so it was pretty easy to get back in, and I still fit in the colors, which I'm happy about that. But to get to go with him was really special, and to watch how the people gravitate to him, how he interacts with them. He's just such a neat horse. And, you know, talking to Ronnie even this morning, he says, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, he was more of an introvert and really didn't care about people. Well, he has come out of his shell, and he just, you can tell he's enjoying life. Certainly Mark Weaver and the Burke Brigade deserve tremendous credit for what they've done with this horse, taking him around, and how the people respond to him. You really have to see it. It is really special, and as I said, they had him in a pen there with shavings, and I was out there with him for a while. Within a 15-minute period there, he got down in the shavings, rolled twice, scratching his back, and just got up and gives himself a shake, and just, he's a happy horse, and he portrays that to the people.
Now, John, you just came from Saratoga as well at the RCI meetings. Kind of, you know, highlight that a little bit and what we were able to get accomplished.
Well, for you, many of you that don't know, I started a project when I first took over at the Hambletonian Society to try and get our rules more closely aligned from state to state, and actually in Canada as well. And I formed a committee to review the rules. In Canada, I was on a committee, they did the same thing. They took a little different approach in that they didn't have as many jurisdictions that had harness racing, so they had more regulators on their committee than I did. But we submitted a number of rule changes to USTA this past 2 years, and then the process is that you take this to the Association of Racing Commissions International for them to put into their model rules. And we took all those there this past August, and all but one was passed, and that was only tabled. There was some questions on the legality of drug tests and alcohol tests. But all the racing rules were passed, was received very enthusiastically. I was very happy about, I couldn't have been happier the way it went with the racing commissions. Now comes the hard part, getting the racing commissions to adopt these rules. But they're in model rules. That certainly makes it easier when you go to the individual racing commission. And you know, the end game would be that we would have very similar racing rules throughout North America. So it would help the participants. You know, the braking rule, for one, is a frustration for anybody that drives horses, trains horses, or owns them, and bets on them, because you never know how it's called, the extended run. We've changed the rules so that it's 25 strides. If you run for 25 strides after the word go is given, you're considered an extended run and you'll be disqualified. That's just one of them that really clarifies it, and I'm hoping that we can get the racing commissions to adopt all of them, obviously. But I think the braking rule, the pylon rule, and the whipping rule are the three that stand out and that are so different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and a frustration for participants and bettors.
All right, we're going to ask John a couple more questions here in just a second. Also, fans, feel free to be interactive with John. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We're going to give away some of those signed T-shirts. Pull out those raffle tickets. I promise they're not in sequential order. Alex made me split them up. All right, 105299. 105299. 105299. 105332. Step over here and see Dan. He'll get you your shirt. 105332. 332. 318. 318. And then 321. 321. All right. So stop over and see Dan. He'll get you your T-shirt. Any fan questions thus far for John as we talk about his career with the Hambletonian, or excuse me, driving, or with the Hambletonian Society? Question was, what was your favorite horse to drive?
Well, my favorite horse that I only got to drive him a little bit was a horse called Argyle Chester. I had owned him with my grandmother, and he was born on my birthday, my 11th birthday. So he's my favorite horse of all time. And he turned out to be a free-for-all pacer around Ontario, and a pretty good horse. I got to drive him when he was older and not as good, but it was still special for me to drive him. The best horse I've ever raced is Mac Lobel, no question about it. It's an easy decision. Fillies, well, it's hard to go against Peace Corps. Yeah, and I know you. That's the answer you wanted, wasn't it, Piney? But no, Peace Corps is certainly one of the all-time greats, and you know, I was very fortunate. The funny story, just how horses go. When Peace Corps was a 2-year-old, Tommy Houghton had her, and he had another Super Bowl filly, and the Super Bowl filly trained much, much better than Pine Chip. Pine Chip just went along, did her work, was nothing special. So Tommy had me come down and train the Super Bowl filly, and Peace Corps couldn't get within 2 lengths of her training. So we get them baby raced and start them, and now the Super Bowl filly gets in the final of the Marie Annabelle. And so there was no doubt in my mind that I was going with the Super Bowl. That's what Lou Guida owned them both. That's what Guida wanted. That's what Tommy wanted. So Mike drove Peace Corps, and I drove the Super Bowl filly. And Super Bowl filly never won another race. Peace Corps won the Marie Annabelle, and I was very fortunate that they put me back down to drive her because, and then she just took off from there on. It was, but if you'd have compared them 6 weeks before they raced, you would have thought the Super Bowl filly was going to have the legacy that Peace Corps had. Pacers are a little closer. I mean, obviously Arts Place, Real Desire are right up there. I think they're, you know, hard to separate. The Ponderosa for a short time was just, he was unbeatable, but it just didn't last as long as we'd hoped. But Pacers, I've got a number that are very, very close. It's hard to pick one out, but like Mac stands out to me.
Now, John, you got a chance to sit behind Foiled again, but what was your record against him? Did you do any good?
Very, very seldom. Very, very seldom. He was such a hard horse. I actually drove him before Burke's Bottom. For the man that owned him was a friend of mine, and you know, he was numbers a 3 and really didn't try very hard. Was good gated, sound, perfect to drive, but just didn't try very hard. And then as he got older, he just got better. And I mean, for him to be, you'd have to classify him in the top 3 free-for-allers for I don't know how many years. I mean, it was just incredible that he could race and had the constitution, and obviously the ability is one thing, but just to have the constitution, not have a pull a suspensory, you know, anything that could happen to a horse that racing that hard for that long. And so he's really just one of the most amazing special horses that we've had in harness racing.
Now, John, obviously with new jobs comes frustration or challenges. What frustrations or challenges have you had since joining the Hambletonian Society?
Well, I guess what stands out, like we really have the groups are the horsemen, which we include breeders and owners, the racetracks and the commissions. And if you go to any of them, you know, they all realize that we should be changing and evolving as we move along. But they don't want to change, they want the other guy to change. And that's kind of frustrating, especially when you bring up, what if you do this? And, well, we've always done it this way. Yeah, but that's not working. But so that part, I will say I've become more patient since I started this job, just because it takes longer to get things done than I would like or than really should happen, but that's just the way it is. So as long as you're seeing progress on some fronts, and you know, even though it's slow to change, there is some you know, movement there. I've become more patient, and you know, more satisfied that I think there are other changes coming that are going to help the industry.
Now, just because he's standing here, don't be nice, okay? What did you learn from Mr. Charters? Did you take any advice from him?
Yeah,
He said he wanted to hear it. Let him get his ears in. So, got Mr. Charters in attendance with us. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was very fortunate when I took over for Tom. Tom was there to finish out the year, which I got a tremendous amount of guidance from him. And fortunately, Tom comes in on a part-time basis, and I can lean on his counsel anytime I want. He's got such a vast knowledge and history, because even when I bring up things, now I wonder why we did it this way, Tom can give you background on why it was done to start that. Sometimes I don't agree that it shouldn't be changed or shouldn't, but at least you're getting that education and background in why it was done in the first place. And he was with the Breeders' Crown and the Hambletonian Society for 30 years, so there's hardly anything that he hasn't had come across his desk or come up during putting on all these races. Although one thing he did say, he said, there's always going to be something that you haven't seen or we haven't seen come up before, and he's absolutely right. But I feel very fortunate in that Tom not only was there for the first part of the last part of the first year I was there, but is still there on a part-time basis. And between him and Maura, I don't make any decisions without discussing it amongst ourselves. And I think between the three of us, you know, we try and come up with a pretty good solution or idea.
Speaking of Mr. Charters, we're going to take the attention away from you for a second, John, if that's okay.
Sure.
Let's give Mr. Charters a round of applause. He was just inducted into Harness Racing's Hall of Fame. Mr. Charters inducted. He'll be officially inducted at Goshen, New York. So, Tom, congratulations. We're going to give away 4 more T-shirts. Step on over and see that young lady right there, and she'll be more than happy to give you a ticket. Let's see. I had somebody else pull them, and only 2 of them are sequential this time, so we'll see. All right, last 3 numbers, 340, 340, and we have a 342, 342, a 343, and a 309. 343 and 309. Stop over and see Dan, and he'll match up your tickets for you. Any questions thus far for John? Any questions? John, you headed to a different kind of conference, an event with the racetrack superintendents from around the country. How interesting was that, and what did you learn specifically from that?
Well, that was something that I was totally surprised to get an invitation to. I didn't realize that the track superintendents had a conference, and it was quite educational. And to tell you the truth, I think there should be more track superintendents attend it. One thing I learned, and which the track superintendents realize that we should be making our tracks with a little more cushion on them. However, there's a majority of the horsemen don't like that for various reasons. But the track superintendents are aware that it would be better for racing if you dig the tracks up a little deeper. It helps the closers. It's easier on the horses. They might not go as fast, but by and large, the public doesn't care how fast they go. They're looking for competitive races, entertaining races, and a tote board that has some value, 2-to-1 favorite or higher. So I was pleasantly surprised at just how good a grasp they had on what would be better, but their hands are kind of tied because you know, as soon as they dig the tracks up, they get negative feedback from the horsemen.
Okay, we didn't have somebody show up for a shirt, so 301. Yes. Yep, got a question. 301, stop up, and then we have a audience question here.
John, a lot of people here probably don't know your total history, but I know you from a teenager. One of your greatest horses that brought you to fame was Derby Gent. You also won here with Merger, and then Jody Frank took you and Ray Remen and Greg Wright all to the Meadowlands, which give you boys all a good start.
Yeah, going back to Derby's Gent, he was a top horse in Ontario, and we took him to Monticello, and he won his way out of there, and I got invited to go to Roosevelt, and this is before the Meadowlands opened up, so it was a big deal. We took him down there for a $25,000 invitation on a Saturday night, and there'd be 25,000 people there. And I was 20 years old, and it was an experience that I've never forgotten, never will forget. Going down there. He finished 5th, certainly a different class of horse than what he'd been racing against, but we took him back. He raced in the Canadian Pacing Derby, so that was my first race against the top free-for-allers in North America. He was 3rd in there. And then I raced him in the Provincial Cup against Handle with Care, Ramblin' Willie, and those type of horses. He was 5th. So it was my first experience racing at the highest level, the best horses that were around. So it was always have a soft spot for Derby's Gent because he was an incredible horse for an Ontario bred out of an unraced mare and unraced sire. Merger was obviously special. Merger was just a horse that was made for Delaware. He had bad feet, and as soon as he got here, he just found a new lease on life. And he really wasn't a top horse when I look back on it now, but he was in the right spot being here at Delaware, and it was certainly a huge thrill for me to win that. It was the second time I was in it, but my family was here, my mom and dad and Paula, and it was just a great experience. And as far as going to the Meadowlands, Ray Remen and Greg Wright had gone there first when it first opened up, and I didn't go. And I saw how good they did well down there, and I thought, well, if they can do good, I can do good. So when they reopened back in '78, I decided to give it a try. And the race secretary at the time at the Windsor, we were at a party before I left, and he told me, "You'll starve to death down there." So
he was wrong, obviously.
Yeah, I thought that was a little cold to tell me before I even left, but anyway, it worked out. We never came back, and we've made a life in New Jersey, raised our family there, and I'll end up staying in New Jersey.
All right, John, we're going to give you a fun one now, okay? So keep it G if you can. No. You have a ton of coworkers that you've worked with throughout the years and now at the Hambletonian Society. What's your funniest, my coworker is crazy story?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Just
maybe not the funniest. Just pick one out.
Well, I actually went to California after the first year I was in the Meadowlands over there, and we had a friend of mine working for me, and Joe Foley was his name, and good guy, but he liked to bet, and so I paid all the help on Friday, and they gave him the checks to take over to the track and cash Friday night. Poor old Joe come back empty. I had a sad group for a week.
Sad or mad? I'm surprised he still lived to tell about it.
I got another one.
Go ahead.
This was the Christmas before we went to the Meadowlands, and I had 25 horses at the Meadowlands, so it was all one section. And I had quite a crew working for me, so I had a couple guys working for me, and I said, let's put up a Christmas tree in the barn. So I said, okay. They said, okay. And I said, I gave them money. I said, go buy a Christmas tree. And I never thought nothing of it. And so I come in the next morning. I stopped in the kitchen, and then the whole talk of the kitchen was, you got to see the Christmas tree in Campbell's barn. So I went in, and they decorated up. They had lights, and they wrapped the beer boxes in Christmas paper, and it did look beautiful. And I come to find out they took the money that I gave them to buy beer, and they were driving by some guy's place, and they saw that'll make a good Christmas tree. They cut the tree down right out of the guy's front yard.
Best Christmas ever, huh? Oh, man. All right, John. So obviously, the talk in the thoroughbred industry is the Triple Crown. That's one of the most exciting things in thoroughbred racing. And one thing about harness racing, we do have 2 Triple Crowns. For those of you who aren't aware of that, we do have a trotting and a pacing Triple Crown. What can we do as an industry to kind of bring more light to that?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, we had a bonus for a Grand Slam for pacers and trotters, but the insurance was too expensive to continue on. It was going to be $1 million bonus if you won all 4 races. The North American Cup, Meadowlands Pace, Little Brown Jug, and Breeders' Crown, maybe. And then the trot was 4 of those as well. But there just isn't excess dollars in our industry for projects such as that, and we couldn't continue it. Amazingly enough, as hard as that would have been to do, the insurance was very expensive. I think if we could have continued that, that would have brought a lot more attention to those 4 races. But I really don't have an answer on how you promote our Triple Crown more. You know, it really is, with the change in the breed and some people's reluctance to race on half-mile tracks, it's an issue, and I really don't have an answer.
My husband's a faithful watcher of Sports Center, and he says every day they feature a thoroughbred race. And how can we get our horses out there, get our race of the day on the news or anywhere? Well, it goes back to those excess dollars in our industry that we don't have, that I spoke about. And there's a chance that we could have a series of races put on one of the cable sports networks next year. There's some negotiations going on, but my fear is that we just can't afford it. And I think, well, the local news you're not going to get on. Local news they'll cover local sports. They don't even cover national sports like they used to on the local news or local newspapers. You just won't get in that. And if you want to get on, you're going to have to pay for it. It's as simple as that. And again, I go back to the excess dollars that I wish we had. And this project with the series of races would be, I think, would be tremendous for the industry. It'd be a series of 5 to 6, maybe even 7 races that would be put on, hour-long show throughout the year. And obviously, we've got a number of great races and venues to pick from. I'm hoping that we can get it funded, but I'm not that optimistic that we can.
John, what's something that you hope to accomplish going forward in the future?
Well, I hope it don't screw up too much. That's the whole thing. Just don't mess it up. I mean, one thing, when Tom retired, and I traveled to Sweden and France and around, North America, and one thing that really struck me is how much regard the Europeans and the racetracks and commissions and horsemen have for the Hambletonian Society. And that's something I want to continue. I want to make sure that the Hambletonian Society is always held in high regard, and that goes back to me not screwing it up so that they're not. I just don't want to do anything that ever jeopardizes the relationships and the prestige that has been instilled by Tom and Moore over all these years that through moving forward. So I think the Hambletonian Society plays a big role in our industry. We don't have regulatory power, nor do we want that, but I think we are influential in certain situations, and I just want to make sure that influence is used wisely.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
Question. Yesterday, Ron Burke was here. He talked about the glory days, and he said they're now. And when you look at the industry over a period of time, chronologically, historically, I think he has to mean in terms of opportunities, and that would be with gaming, slots, and all of that. So how do you view that? What is the next opportunity, do you think, in the industry that can be exposed, exploited?
Well, it depends on what happens with sports wagering in the different jurisdictions, whether we get a piece of that or not. I think he's right as far as opportunities, and obviously, we're not an industry that can support itself to put up the purses that we're putting up now. But that doesn't mean we're not viable, nor does it mean that we shouldn't be helped, because obviously when you look at the churn of money that the industry puts back into the economy and the workforce and all that, we do add a lot to rural societies for sure, and and even in New Jersey, which isn't as rural, there's a huge churn of money from the industry. So it's an industry worth supporting with the bigger purses. Having said that, I think we should, especially in some venues, doing much more to improve our bet, improve the image, and be more diligent in certain areas of our industry as far as wrongdoing. And but I think if we could increase the bet, increase our exposure, I'm a big believer in our big days, that we have to focus on those to get people out, because we're not going to get people back to the racetrack like we had 20, 25 years ago. It's just not going to happen. But we can get people out on a big day, tell them that something special is going on here. You have to have more than the races to get people out. You have to have other activities to get them here. But then have them exposed, and hopefully some of them will gravitate toward us. And I think doing that and trying to increase your handle is something that you can show these politicians that, hey, we're working at it, people are interested in it, we're growing. And I think that's imperative for every jurisdiction that does have additional revenue for purses that doesn't come from the betting, that it's just imperative that we show we're trying and growing all the time.
John, you're right about the $1 million races. They really bring people out. Mohawk, they have North American Cup, and when I go up there, you can hardly get a place to park. You got the Metro this weekend. I don't know what the purse is on that, but there's probably going to be a major crowd. Now, last year you talked about $1 million open trot at Red Mile. Did anything ever come out of that?
Unfortunately, we couldn't make it work at the Red Mile. We had agreed on a date, and that date just didn't become feasible for the Red Mile to do it. And when I looked into it, changing the date, there wasn't near as good a chance of having a successful event. And my focus on that $1 million two-year-old trot is it has to be an event. We just can't put on $1 million race and be racing in front of our own people. We got to make sure we get a good crowd, and as again, those other activities, you got to put a bunch of money into marketing and advertising and putting it on. So with the date change, I just didn't feel that it had as much chance of success, so we did cancel it. We're working on trying to revive that idea, and I'm hopeful that sometime in the future we'll be able to put that on and make it a big event.
All right, we got a couple more shirts we're going to give away, and then I got a question or two more for John, and then we'll wrap it up so we can enjoy the rest of Little Brown Jug Day. Not that, John is always the biggest crowd drawer, so to speak, one of the biggest, so we appreciate John every time. Numbers 294, 296, 304 316. 294 296 304 316. Stop over. Dan, where are we at? Stop and see Dan. Oh, are you out of there? Oh, okay. So then we. John, there's obviously a lot of young people coming up in the sport of harness racing and just in general. We got to do something to kind of draw them in. What advice would you give a new or up-and-coming person into the sport?
Well, I guess the thing you'd have to do is learn to read the program, which is something it's a pain in my butt the way we have these programs set up. It's all right if you've been coming to the track for all your life, but I could hand that program to a Harvard professor and he can't figure out what it means. I really believe we should have 2 pages, one with the programs as we have now, and then an easier graphs and chart program for people who can make an educated bet rather than picking their address or picking, you know, their mother's name or whatever they're doing. So that's one thing I guess I'd encourage them to learn to read the program. You know, over the years, you know, with my daughters coming to the track and friends of ours, I mean, it's amazing how young people, when they're first exposed to it, really find it exciting and didn't realize what was going on. Certainly not everybody, but certainly a percentage of them really enjoy the races, and I just think we make it too hard for them to learn to bet. Somebody growing up in the industry, if you're looking to make it a career, there's no way to get around starting at the bottom. I mean, if you want to be in horses, in training or driving, I think you have to learn about horses and you have to look after them and clean stalls and do the dirty work to get that education and background if you're going to be successful.
John, I wish you in all your meetings with all your different jurisdictions just enforce spending money on advertising, like billboards. Like we're staying in Marion, Ohio, and the lady doesn't even know what the Little Brown Jug is about. And we got the Breeders' Crown coming to Mohawk, and we've had driving championships at Mohawk. You could send a bowling ball down through and wouldn't even get anybody for the driving competitions. And the people in the local area didn't know where Mohawk was or what harness racing is all about. So I don't know what billboards would cost, but if you go to golfing and PGA Golf, they got billboards all over the place coming into those towns and cities, and they're advertising on the local radios and television stations. So in my mind, they got to spend some money coming into the Breeders' Crown and have that the biggest event that Ontario and Canada can put on. And then not overcharge the people that are there for food and drinks, so then make it a happy day and a happy night. I think like Mohawk's going to charge like $150 a plate up there. Well, to most people that's just extreme, but.
Well, I agree with you on the advertising, and I'm not enough of an expert to say where it should be spent. And I did have somebody tell me last night that they were advertising like crazy up in Ontario about the Breeders' Crown. So somebody's seen something about it up there. Driver championships, I was never a big believer that they really help the handle or attendance very much anyway, to tell you the truth. I don't think they have that much traction anymore. So from a personal standpoint, dealing with Woodbine, they've been incredible to deal with. But the cost of it, if you're going to put something on nice, you got to pay for it. It's as simple as that. Now, when we went to Hoosier, I think they charged $100 for a buffet, and there was some grumbling, but not much. And after we got there and they saw the type of food they had in the buffet, I only had one complaint the whole night about it, and more compliments the other way on the food and everything. And the same thing when we went back to Pocono, they put on a much better buffet and food than they did the previous times for Breeders' Crown, and they charged for it, and never heard any complaints. So I think it's more about what you get for your $100 than the $100. And I was up to Woodbine for North America Cup, and as this gentleman, I mean, whatever they're doing or charging, they had a lot of people there. I had the buffet, and it was $100, I think, for that. And nobody complained about it, but the food was one of the most spectacular buffets I've ever seen. They had lobster and anything you would ever imagine you'd want to eat, and it was very, very good. So I understand it's expensive, but as long as you get something for that, I think people are more accepting to that.
All right, we've got one more fan question, and we'll wrap this thing up.
John, I just wondered how Paula is doing with the Standardbred Retirement Foundation. Is it still at a critical stage where it's impossible to support all the retired racehorses?
It is. They're just swamped with horses, and it's very expensive to keep running. But you know, they're you know, obviously working at it. But it takes a tremendous amount of money, and they just never run out of horses. They just keep coming and coming, and you know, it's a very difficult thing. It's certainly needed. Fortunately, the United States Trotting Association has started the Standardbred Transition Alliance, and they're going to be giving out grants to different organizations, and they all have to apply and make sure they're worthy of it. And I think that'll help the SRF moving forward with a certain amount of money. But you just can never catch up money-wise to what the horses are coming in. Drivers and trainers, it depends. That some of them do, some of them don't, and you know, some of them support new vocations rather than SRF. So, you know, from the industry, I think that standpoint, the SRF puts on a golf tournament in New Jersey every year. The turnout from the horsemen is tremendous, and you know, and they spend money afterwards with raffle tickets. There, you know, you really can't complain about the support we get from the harness racing community there at all.
All right, let's thank John for his time this morning. John, I'm sure will be more than happy to shake some hands and sign some autographs for you. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thanks so much to everybody who came out to the 2019 Speaker Series presented by the Harness Racing Fan Zone. I've been your MC, Mike Carter. We thank you, and we'll see you back here next year.